What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video. Today we have What If Issei Found Out the Truth, the movie. I won't hold you guys to it at all. If we could hit 1,000 likes on this video, that'd be absolutely amazing. What If Goku's and What Ifs on Issei's and Naruto will be coming out more and more often right now because I finally have some type of free time now that testing for track is over, and hopefully your boy can get back a little bit on the grind. So once again, before I say anything at all, please go subscribe to my second channel, Ampopowski, and follow DxD down in the description below. We just hit 30,000 subscribers on Ampopowski as well, which is absolutely amazing. But without further ado, let's go and thank my balance breakers: Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Ant Lewis, Night Ammo, Joe Baldwin, Frostbite 052, Refeek 135, Zapper 363, Keep Saying 21, Louis Berenius, $5 Sake, VR Wolf Tech 2347, Night Ammo, ZK 2000, Seth Voiles, The PS Gamer, XRX108, Jacob Komets, Jordan Patchout, Mazaku, Dr. Niskrama Joyska's The Bomb, Grim Fireshot Gamer, That Round Guy, Zero Fusion, Source Responder, and Chaotic Raven. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. Before I do anything at all, a huge shout out to this person named Jeremy. He donated me $1,000, which is absolutely crazy. Thank you so much, Jeremy. That's why I'm doing the What If Naruto's and High School DxD series as of right now. Those videos will keep coming out, continuous bangers. Trust me, I promise you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the movie. Chapter 1, Heartbreak. Issei, to you, what am I? Who am I? Asked Rias, her back to Issei. To me, president is president, said Issei, slightly confused. Idiot, cried Rias, he voice sounding as though she was crying, a sob escaping her throat. Rias rushed out of the club room. Azia rushed to the door, but paused to look back at Issei. Issei, you are horrible. It's too much. Why can't you understand Rias's feelings? Questioned Azia, tears in her eyes, confusing Issei, before she went after Rias. That wasn't right, Issei, said Kiba with a sigh. Not right? As in what? Asked Issei in confusion. Exactly that. I can understand very well what the girls are going through, said Kiba, sounding exasperated. Exactly. It is natural for Rias and Azia to get mad, scolded Akeno, sounding angry as well. Even I, who is as dense as these sort of things, thought you were a bit off, Issei chimed in Zenovia. Issei, sure is a no-no. Poor Rias, added Irina, sounding mad as well. You are the worst, said Konako in a cold voice. Issei, meanwhile, was utterly confused and had no idea why everyone was looking at him in such disappointment and anger. I don't get it. What did I do? Thought Issei before turning to Gasper. Hey, Gasper, am I really the bad guy here? Asked Issei desperately. Gasper seemed somewhat uncomfortable, but answered nevertheless. Yes. I think you are very bad, said Gasper timidly, causing Issei to drop to his knees. This is my fault, of my mother, and I, right? I'm sorry, said Ravel, getting Issei to look at her strangely. How is this Ravel's fault? Questioned Issei. Akeno walked over to Ravel and placed her hands on her shoulders. This isn't your fault, Ravel. Issei is the most at fault here, because he never tried to think about the crucial thing between Rias and himself until now, said Akeno kindly, causing Ravel to perk up. The atmosphere was so tense. Issei couldn't take it in and abruptly left the room, getting some surprised expressions from those in the club room. Do you think he will go to Rias and make things right? Asked Yuto curiously. I hope so. Rias looked crushed, said Akeno. I just don't understand why Issei keeps acting like this, said Zenobia with a sigh. Hopefully, Issei-senpai will fix everything, said Gasper. Hopefully. Line break. I don't understand. Why is everyone so angry with me? What did I do? Thought Issei as he clenched his fist. I can't take this anymore. This sense of unknowing, not knowing if President loves me or not, if all the girls love me or not, or if, thought Issei before a face flashed in his mind. Will you die for me? Issei clenched his chest as he entered his house. Both parents were out shopping. Their new house required lots of supplies after all. Issei chuckled dryly. Is that what all I was to them? The prize Red Dragon Emperor. Someone to show off in front of others, but never be honest with, thought Issei. The pain of that every thought caused him to scrunch his eyes up. Well, no more. I know it wasn't the best idea to continue to be such an open pervert. I love boobs so much, but it seems none of them take me seriously because of it. thought Issei, remembering the verbal assault he had just taken as he entered his room. No more. I can't do this anymore, shouted Issei internally as he started to cry. The sense of not knowing, the sense of fear, that feeling of uncertainty, thought Issei as he closed his eyes shut tightly. Will you die for me? Repeated in his head. No more, whispered Issei as he quickly packed a backpack with all of his needed from his room before heading down to the kitchen. No more, muttered Issei sadly as he grabbed enough food to last him for weeks. No more, said Issei as he closed the door behind him and dropped his key on the mat. No more, shouted Issei as the red glow suddenly encompassed his being and a magic circle appeared in front of him. A massive amount of energy burst from Issei's form, so strong that everyone in Ko felt it, even those who were not magically aware. Will you die for me? Ugh, roared Issei in agony before he vanished in a burst of the red energy. Line break. Kiba-senpai? Said Gasper timidly. Sometime after Issei had left the club room. What is it, Gasper? Asked Kiba. Was it fair of all of us to gang up on Issei like that? Asked Gasper. What do you mean, Gasper? We didn't gang up on him, replied Kiba. Well, he did seem to be really confused, added Ravel timidly. You have a point. Issei did seem genuinely confused, but why? Added Zenovia. Do you think we were a bit too hard on him? Asked Irina. Well, Issei needs to understand how Rias feels. It is important to all of us as well. If Issei can't admit his feelings to Rias, then how is he... Oh, no, said Akeno, suddenly coming to the realization. What is it, Akeno? Asked Kiba. Issei couldn't admit his feelings to Rias. That was it, shouted Akeno in realization. What do you mean? Asked Irina. The last person Issei admitted his feelings to, said Akeno, as he looked a shocked appearance on her face, was Rainier, said Konako, suddenly as her eyes widened. Kiba's eyes widened at this. Of course! How could we forget? Shouted Kiba in horror. What do you mean? Who is Rainier? Asked Irina curiously. Issei's first and only girlfriend, one who he confessed his love to, but she was a fallen angel and she killed him for the boosted gear, said Akeno sadly. So do you think because of that he can't admit his feelings to anyone, not even Rias? Asked Zenovia. Poor Issei, what have we done? Whimpered Gasper. At that moment, a huge wave of power was felt, along with a pained and anguished roar. Is that Issei? Oh no, quick, we need to go find him, shouted Akeno before they all ran to the sound of his voice. Line break. Rias was currently crying in the bathroom, her eyes puffy and swollen. Rias, are you okay? Asked Azia kindly as she entered the bathroom and spotted Rias at the sinks. Oh, I'm fine, Azia. What are you doing here? Asked Rias. I came to check up on you. Issei isn't being very nice to you right now, which is unlike him, said Azia timidly. Well, I don't know what to tell you, Azia. I just can't get a straight answer from Issei, said Rias sadly. I'm sure he loves you, Rias. He would do anything for you, said Azia comfortably, as she walked over to Rias and patted her on the shoulder. I just don't know anymore. It was easy in the beginning. He was a blunt pervert who loved breasts and said mine were the best. He fought tooth and nail to save me from Riser and from the other threats, said Rias fondly with a hiccup. I still remember when Issei first met me. He was so kind and honest and almost childlike, said Azia with a smile. Yeah, I remember when he woke up next to me for the first time. He was so nervous, commented Rias with a small smile. And I remember how he cried for me and called me his friend, even as I was dying in his arms. Issei wanted to make me happy, said Azia. The two reminisced in their memories for a moment before Rias remembered something. Although, after you died, he was heartbroken. His power rose dramatically, and he took down that fallen angel all by himself. I was so proud of him, said Rias. Yes, I heard that he defeated Rainier, all for my sake, said Azia fondly. The two smiled at this before they both came to the same realization. Rainier! They both cried before feeling an immense wave of power, and a loud, pained roar of anguish that actually shattered the mirrors in the girls' bathroom. Oh no, quickly, Azia, come stand next to me, shouted Rias to Azia, who obliged, before a large red magic circle appeared under the two. The two disappeared in a flash of red and appeared just outside the gates of the Hyodo household. The two ran up to the door before stopping at the doormat. Rias slumped to her knees in shock, while Azia raised her hands to see her face and stiffed a gasp. As she tried to hold back her tears, moments later, everyone from the clubroom arrived as well and saw both Azia and Rias crying. Akeno looked to see what they were crying over, before she too cried as well. The rest of the girls did the same in turn, with Gasper crying as well when he saw the doormat, while Kiba clenched his fist in anger. There, on the mat of the Hyodo household, along with Issei's keys, were 8 pawn pieces. And that's the end of chapter 1. Heartbreak Chapter 2. The Truth Hurts. But big brother, it's been almost a month now, cried Rias in annoyance. I'm sorry, Rias, but no one can find Issei. He expelled his pieces and thus is an astray. But for some reason, we have no way of tracking him at all. This really isn't anything we can do. Also, I know it isn't something you want to think about right now, but we have postponed this match with Sire Org long enough. You'll have to face him this week, said Sir Zex gravely. Well then, it's your lucky day, isn't it? Because I'm back, said a voice before a golden glow shone in the room, before Issei was revealed. Issei was clad in his school uniform, but he appeared noticeably buffer than before, his shirt and pants all strained against his body now, and his face thinned slightly, giving his features a sharper look. Impossible, Issei said in Rias in shock. That's right, it's me, Rias, said Issei with a smile on his face. Rias smiled at this and went to run into Issei's arms before she felt herself being held back. When she turned to yell at the person holding her back, she saw her brother, with an unusual stern expression. Yes, Rias, I'm back. Not for you, of course. I'm back for school. It's been over a month after all, and I can't fall behind in my studies, said Issei mockingly with a smirk on his face. What are you talking about, Issei? Questioned Rias in confusion. Rias, said Issei, as he shook his head, causing everyone in the room to look at Issei worriedly. Ironically, everyone in the room right now, with the addition of Sir Zex, were those before Issei left. You really are a spoiled little princess, aren't you? Questioned Issei, as the look of anger appeared on his face. What do you mean? Asked Rias, sounding a little hurt. I died in your sick, twisted schemes. You could have told me to stay away from Rainier after all. Even then, until just recently, I would have done anything you said. I died and was brought back as a devil, just so you could get strong, peace. To get you out of your marriage to Riser, I nearly died doing it too. I didn't care though. I loved you after all, said Issei, getting Rias to smile in joy before she heard his words properly. Loved? Asked Rias hesitantly. Yes, love, because now I hate you, Rias grimly snarled Issei, driving a stake right through Rias's heart and shocking everyone in the room. Why? What do you mean? Asked Rias tearfully. I did everything for you. I died for you and I risked my life and limb for you. I followed you into hell literally and figuratively. Just because you cared for me, or so I thought, said Issei sourly. But I do care for you, Issei. I love you, shouted Rias in tears. Oh, do you know? Asked Issei, with a deadly flat tone. Yes, Issei, I love you with all my heart and soul, and want to spend the rest of our lives together, cried Rias. Words, nothing but sweet words, the very same words I would have died to hear from you just a month ago. But now, they mean absolutely nothing to me, said Issei, getting Rias to gasp. You only ever thought about yourself. Well, I did my best to have you accept and the truth be told. You did to some extent. You never acted like a loved one. No, all this time you used me as you saw fit. Then, and here comes the kicker, when you couldn't get one thing from me, the one thing, do you know what you did? Asked Issei rhetorically. You broke what was left of my heart, said Issei in a cold tone, with shivers sent up the spine of everyone. I'm sorry, Issei, cried Rias, openly weeping now. I didn't realize that Rainier hurt you that badly, continued Rias. I wonder why, said Issei coldly, getting Rias to stop crying momentarily. What do you mean? Asked Rias in confusion. What I mean is that you never cared about me, shouted Issei, causing Rias to recoil. All this year, you've been using me, flaunting your Red Dragon Emperor, sure. I got stronger under you, but what did you actually do? You might have been affectionate, physically with me, but emotionally they say no man is an island. But they have never met you, Rias Grimmery, hissed Issei. You never acknowledged my emotions. You knew I loved you, yet you toyed with me. Do you know how much that hurt me? I couldn't think. I didn't know the truth. Constantly asking myself, does she really love me as a partner? Then, no matter how many separate occasions you had to heal the nagging doubt in my heart and mind, what did you do? Of course, make it all about you. You, Rias Grimmery. Forget about Issei. Who cares if he had desperately seated emotional and trust issues? I just want him to say my name, because that means he loves me. Not like he hasn't proved it already, nearly dying for my sake. No, I need him to stay my bloody name, shouted Issei, turning Rias into a sobbing mess. Issei breathed in for a moment before resuming. In any case, I am done with you, Rias grimly, but let me fill you in on what happened about a month ago, said Issei calmly, getting everyone to look at him, even sobbing Rias. You see, ejecting the evil pieces from my body should have killed me. It was only thanks to Drake sustaining my life force that I managed to survive. You nearly, literally, killed me. With your selfishness, said Issei before pausing. But then I saw an angel. Once again, quite literally, said Issei, getting gasp from Irina. That's right, Irina. I'm an angel now, just like you. Maybe not just like you, said Issei before his 10 wings burst from his back. What? 10 wings? Already? But the color, said Irina in surprise. Yes, a little thanks to Drake. My wings are now the same red of my balance breaker. Although, you want to know the best part, said Issei with a smirk. I can't fall, laughed Issei, seeing the gobsmacked expressions on their face. No way, shouted Irina in surprise. It's true. I have even already lost my virginity since having them, and did it a few more times after for good measure. I'll be an angel till the day I die, said Issei, dropping numerous revelations. What? Asked Rias in shock. Oh, but I do believe I've gotten off topic. Ah, yes. Gabriel saving me, said Issei with a nod. Well, as you might have guessed, it wasn't easy turning me. Drake comes at a hefty price, no matter the conversation system you use, said Issei proudly. So, does that mean you're a Gabriel's ace? Asked Irina confusedly. Oh, heavens no. A simple ace would not be enough, said Issei cheerfully. No way, you can't mean, said Irina before trailing off at the end. That's right. Along with Dulio, I'm the other Joker, confirmed Issei with a smirk. But do you want to know the really good part, Rias? Said Issei, getting Rias to look at him attentively. When Gabriel found me, barely clinging to life, only inches away from death's door, do you know what she said to me? Asked Issei. Rias remained silent. Those were her words exactly. I can see your heart is in pain. You have suffered much and gained little for this reason. I will give you a third chance at life. I won't ever turn on you, or ask you for more than you can give. Know that you have my love, forever, and be strong. Become my Joker, finished Issei, before glaring at Rias. A woman, no, a literal angel, did for me in 2 minutes than you've done for me ever since I joined your little barrage. It must mean that for someone who supposedly loves me, you have a terrible way of showing it. I suppose it isn't appropriate, though. Gabriel is an angel, and you are, in every sense of the word, a devil, said Issei harshly. Rias couldn't take it anymore and just fled, just like before. Also, Sir Zex, since you are here, I suppose you should know. The little ceremony with Satan Red, that's all over now. I want nothing to do with Rias. Also, you should know that I've arranged for my Opie Dragon royalties to go on my own personal bank account, said Issei coolly. You know, Issei, don't you think you are being a bit harsh? Rias explained what happened to me, and while I can agree with you that you didn't understand your feelings, isn't this a bit much? Questioned Sir Zex. I suggest you wake up from your siscon delusions and realize just how shallow of a person Rias is, said Issei, getting Sir Zex to frown. She complicated how shallow Riser was, but she hurt me in ways you couldn't even imagine. Don't tell me this is too much, since I wanted to do a lot worse, but I promise Gabriel, said Issei. Issei, are you sure you mean that? Asked Sir Zex, as his lips thinned. Go on then, you don't like it? Kill me! I'm sure when the other Satans find out you killed the Red Dragon Emperor, an angel, and restarted the Great War, they happily indulge you in all your sin-cussed delusions, retorted Issei. You're playing a dangerous game here, Issei, warned Sir Zex. On the contrary, I'm done being played with, replied Issei firmly. Sir Zex didn't respond and merely disappeared back to the underworld, using a magic circle. Well, now that the main problem is out of the way, allow me to tell you what I think about all of you. For absolutely breaking me and pushing me to the point of no return, said Issei. Issei, we didn't know, said Akano before Issei cut her off. I'll deal with you last, said Issei harshly, causing Akano to recoil. Firstly, Zenobia and Irina. Zenobia, you yourself said you were dense. I guess that was right, since you were so dense you didn't realize how much pain I was in. Irina, for a supposed angel and supposed childhood friend, you suck at both roles, said Issei harshly, causing them to look down in shame. That being said, since neither of you were here when the event that scarred me for life took place, I can I can overlay angry with you too. However, at this stage, I couldn't care less about either of you, said Issei indifferently. Gasper, you are actually my second favorite person in this room right now. I could tell that you, even during the verbal assault I took, were hesitant to add it, seeing that something was wrong with me. For that reason, I don't hate you, and do in fact acknowledge you, but you are a pretty bad friend, said Issei sadly, which caused Gasper to look down. Ravel, honestly, I hold none of this against you at all, said Issei, getting Ravel to look at him in surprise. You didn't say anything hurtful or even tried to apologize. For that, I am thankful, and right now, you are the only one I see as a friend of mine in this room, said Issei, with a smile before his face hardened. You, though, Azia, I am immensely annoyed with, said Issei, getting the former nun to look at him in surprise. I fought tooth and nail to save you from Rainier. I cried in agony when you died. I attacked Rainier in fury for what happened to you, and lastly, I begged Rias to save you, to give you a new life. You said I was your first friend. I wish I never was. The holy maiden who can heal all, even a devil, couldn't heal the pain in her supposed friend's heart, and in fact, thinks her friend is horrible, said Issei, getting Azia to cry in sadness. As for you three, said Issei, looking at Akeno, Kiba, and Konako, let's start with the littlest one first, said Issei, as he faced Konako. You, who watched me from the shadows, from the beginning of it all. You, who fought with me in the church. You, who claimed to care for me. No, Konako, I'm not the worst. You are, said Issei in a flat tone. You know what's the best part, though? Questioned Issei rhetorically, as Konako matched his gaze. In 1 month, I gained control over something that, to this day, terrifies you, said Issei, getting Konako to look at him with fearful eyes. That's right, said Issei, before gathering Senjutsu chakra around him. Although the best part is who taught me. Shirone, said Issei, getting Konako to look at him in panic. That's right, you know who. She also took my virginity. She is one feisty cat, that Kuroka, said Issei, shocking many. Now to you, pretty boy, said Issei, glaring at Kiba. You can understand what the girls are going through, huh? Said Issei darkly. Issei, we didn't know, said Kiba weakly before Issei cut him off. Bullshit! You of all people, someone who was damaged so badly as a kid. You couldn't see the pain I was going through? All you could see was that entitled little princess felt, said Issei, getting Kiba to frown. Issei, that isn't fair, said Kiba. Fair? Because it was totally fair for everyone to turn on me like that, huh? Questioned Issei, spitting out a word fair in anger before turning to Akeno. And you, said Issei to slightly frightened Akeno. You, someone who had problems with the fallen angels your whole life. You couldn't see my pain. A pain which I recently helped you get through, questioned Issei. I'm so sorry, Issei, said Akeno, tears beginning to form in her eyes. You know what I'm not sorry about? Asked Issei coldly. I'm not sorry at all about the fact that I can't fall. Because if I ended up becoming a fallen angel like you and that bitch Rainier, I might just kill myself, said Issei darkly. Will you die for me? Issei snarled momentarily before schooling his features. Well, in any case, that's all I have to say. Now, I think I will go to class, since I've missed so much already, said Issei before he left the club room, slamming the door behind him. What have we done? Questioned Akeno sadly, as she wiped her tears. We pushed Issei over the edge, it seems. It seems all of us turning on him was too much for him, said Kiba sadly. Do you think he will ever forgive us? Asked Azia with tears swimming in her eyes. I don't think so, said Kiba grimly. That's the end of Chapter 2, The Truth Hurts. Chapter 3, Genetics. Kuroko was lazily swinging her legs over the arm of a large red grandfather chair. The rest of her was curled up against the back of it. She was humbly slightly, which caused Volley to look after her after a minute or two. You seem surprisingly cheerful, Kuroko. More than usual, I mean, said Volley. I guess that makes sense. I'm finally on track to achieving my goal, said Kuroko playfully. Which goal? Asked Volley. To bring back the Nekomative race, of course, said Kuroko cheerfully, still swinging her legs in happiness. Really now, with who? Asked Volley, genuinely curious, since he knew Kuroko would only accept a strong mate. You're so funny, Volley. You're opposite, of course, said Kuroko with a giggle. Hyodo? I didn't think he had it in him, commented Volley with a raised eyebrow. Well, just recently, I had my eye on. I had him in me, purred Kuroka lustfully. I must say I'm surprised, said Volley disheartenedly. What do you mean? You didn't even pick up on my hint at all? Said Kuroka with a pout. What hint? Asked Volleys distractedly. When I said he was your opposite, I meant that in more ways than one, said Kuroka seriously. Really? I know he has a red dragon, but how does that make him my opposite in more ways than one? Asked Volley, bringing his attention back to Kuroka. Just think about it, Volley Lucifer, teased Kuroka, stressing the word Lucifer. Volley paused for a moment and mulled this over, before looking at her and raised an eyebrow in slightly disbelieving expression. You can't be serious, said Volley. He really is an angel, said Kuroka dreamily. The energy coming off him was irresistible, and the best part is he was perfectly fine with me being a devil, as well as a stray, and gave me exactly what you want, said Kuroka happily. Wouldn't an angel fall having impure thoughts, not to mention sex with a devil? Queried Volley in interest. Well, as it turns out, he can't fall. I think we figured that out the 8th time we did it, said Kuroka thoughtfully. I see. How interesting, said Volley. Oh, and not only that, since we did it so much, while I was at it, I even restored the life force he lost from when he went into Juggernaut Drive a while ago, added Kuroka happily. Anything else? Asked Volley curiously. Well, I did teach him Senjutsu as well, and he picked up really quickly, especially since every time he showed reasonable improvement, we did it again, said Kuroka happily. Very interesting. Perhaps the next time we fight, he even may be able to beat me, said Volley thoughtfully. Well, as long as he keeps beating me, with his not-so-little dragon afterwards, I don't mind. It will take a lot for me to get pregnant outside of the mating season, but at the very least, I can get plenty of practice in, purred Kuroka in anticipation. Scene break. Gabriel, are you sure this was the right thing to do? Asked Michael, having just a rather tense conversation with Sir Sex. Of course, Michael replied with the voluptuous curly-haired blonde seraph, known as Gabriel. We couldn't just let the Red Dragon Emperor perish like that, and his heart was in so much pain. I had to help him. All he ever wanted was some unconditional love, so I gave him mine, said Gabriel pleasantly. Well, you do have a point. Losing Issei would have been disastrous, and the boy has rather pure heart. Whether that is the best is debatable, said Michael with a smile, which caused Gabriel to laugh. Well, I don't know about that, said Gabriel, before her beautiful smiling visage became uncharacteristically serious. The pain he was in. He was utterly heartbroken, like no one I have ever seen before. Michael, if you saw him now on the surface, you would think he had only changed slightly. But I spent days with him, helping him acknowledge his heart and just what people mean to him. It wasn't easy, Michael. He was shattered and I barely managed to save him. Now, though, he has changed. However, I do believe it is for the better, as now he can open up to others once again, said Gabriel with a frown sounding somewhat sad. I see. I did not know what Issei was suffering through so much, said Michael. Yes, it seems no one did, which is what pushed Issei to his breaking point, said Gabriel sadly. Scene break. Now with Drake. It feels good, Drake. I'm back and everything is better than ever, thought Issei happily. I must say, though, I've never heard such a thing happening before. True, all of my hosts had members of the opposite sex flock to them, but I've never seen my host turn so many away, commented Drake. Well, we already established I'm one of the strangest hosts you've ever had, thought Issei. True, but your natural lust and perversion. I never could have seen something like this happening, ever, admitted Drake. Will you die for me? Issei frowned slightly before replying. People can change, Drake. Even you, after so many years, have changed yourself, thought Issei before finally reaching his classroom. I'm back, shouted Issei as he opened the door and walked into the room, causing everyone to gawk at him. Hyodo? Where have you been for the past month? Questioned the teacher. She had an average appearance of average height, brown eyes, brown hair reaching down to her shoulders and blades, and rather slim figure. I've been on a journey of self-discovery, said Issei. Whoa, Hyodo got bigger, commented one of the boys in Issei's class. I see. In any case, it is good to have you back. But can you please take your seat so I may continue to listen? Said the teacher, sternly. Of course. Excuse my disrespect, said Issei as he gave a charming smile. Is that really Hyodo? Asked one of the girls in the class as Issei made his way to his seat. The rest of the class proceeded without any fanfare. save for the occasional student glancing back at Issei. After class finished and the teacher had left, Issei was quickly swarmed by Motohama and Matsuda. Come on. "Where have you been?" Issei asked Motohama, as his glasses gleamed. "Yeah, at first we thought you were just stuck in your bed or something," said Matsuda, getting a look of disgust from some of the girls sitting nearby. "That's disgusting," shouted Moriyama. "Quiet, you! You don't understand the pleasures of flesh," retorted Motohama. "Huh, oh, that's funny, guys," said Issei, getting the few people around him, namely Akiakiru, Marama, and Kadase, to look at him oddly, along with Matsuda and Motohama. "What do you mean, Issei?" "We're brothers in knowledge of the flesh," shouted Matsuda, and his shiny bald head gleaming. "Yeah, but have either of you actually had sex?" asked Issei bluntly, getting a small blush out of Murayama and Kadase, while Kiryu looked on in interest, as the two perverts hugged their heads momentarily. "Hey, you haven't either!" shouted the perverted duo, which only made Issei laugh. "I wouldn't be so sure," teased Issei in a singing-song voice, getting those around him to gape. "No way, Hyodo had sex?" said Kadase in disbelief. "I wonder if that's why he got so buff," whispered Murayama. "Huh? Big talk, but where's your proof?" asked Kiryu, as she looked at Issei with a grin, causing a few surrounding classmates to listen and the conversation turned to face Issei. "Well, aside from the fact that I just did it before I came to school today and didn't have time to shower, so you can practically smell her on me," said Issei, getting the five of them to gape. "Why don't I give you some physical evidence?" questioned Issei rhetorically, as he took off his blazer, revealing his arms were straying at the fabric of white dress shirt. Issei then took his white dress shirt, leaving him only in a red t-shirt, revealing his arms in the classroom, which drew quite a few blushes from the girls, and a few looks of envy, mixed with grudging respect from the boys. Lastly, Issei turned around, so his back was facing everyone, before he took off his red shirt, getting a few gapes. "Holy shit, Issei, what happened to your back?" questioned Matsuda, for along Issei's back were numerous angry red scratch marks. "Like I said, physical evidence. She's a wildcat in bed, so she can take one hell of a pounding," said Issei, as she put his shirt back on. Along with the rest of his clothes, the rest of the class was still gaping from what he said. "No way. Was Hyodo serious?" asked Morihama in a whisper. They did look fairly genuine," said Kiryu, commenting on the marks that they just saw on his back. "Lies, Issei, there is no way that is the truth. Tell us it is a sick joke," cried Mohama ignorantly. "Nope, besides, this wasn't the first time we did it, and it won't be the last," said Issei casually. "How? Who? Why?" shouted Matsuda. How? Well, you saw for yourself how the girls in the class reacted to my body, and you guys despite my preservativeness. "I'm not that bad of a guy. I'd do anything for my friends," said Issei with a frown, as he recalled the image of what was appearing more and more frequently in his mind. "Will you die for me?" "As for who? I'll leave that until the end." "The why, though, is because I have superior genetics," said Issei before going silent. "Well, who is it?" asked Mohama, both in excitement and envy. "Kuroka," said Issei simply. "That doesn't tell us anything," shouted the perverted duo. "Oh, right. Did I forget to mention that Kuroka is Konoko's big sister? Also, when I say big, I'm not just talking about her age in comparison to Konoko," said Issei, getting jaws to drop throughout the classroom. "No way," said Matsuda in shock. "Konoko has a big sister?" continued Motohama. "Yep, although they aren't on the best of terms. Oh, and I'll say this now, she's mine, so don't even think about it," said Issei. "I can't believe Hyodo had sex with someone," said Murayama. "Well, if you want, I could show you what it's like," teased Issei with a grin, getting Murayama to blush and splutter refusals. "Oh, that's too bad. If Kuroka is to be believed, I'm apparently very good at it. I mean, just ask anyone who heard us near the edge of town this morning," said Issei, getting wide-eyed looks from everyone. Issei smirked at this before he felt something looking at his crotch, and looked to where he felt the gaze coming from, only to see Kiryu gazing at it with a blush. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked Issei, getting Kiryu to nervously chuckle and look away. "Well, you're not short of power, that's for sure," said Kiryu, precisely getting Moriyama, Kadase, Motohama, and Matsuda to look at him in shock. "Like I said, superior genetics in more ways than one," said Issei with a smirk, which caused Moriyama and Kadase to blush slightly at the implication, while Matsuda and Motohama hung their heads in shame and envy. And that is the end of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. Responsibility. Issei was walking home after the school day. Not the Hyodo residence, which had been taken over by the members of the Occult Research Club, but rather his apartment. Yes, his apartment. Not a single room, but a whole apartment that he had purchased, with the assistance of Kuroka. It seemed being bad really did pay well. It wasn't particularly huge, but it wasn't small either. 3 separate floors, with 2 rooms on each level, each room about the size of a small 1-bedroom house, complete with a kitchen and a bathroom. Issei climbed to the stairs to his room, which was the room on the right, on the 3rd floor. Issei pulled out his key and opened the door and saw perhaps the one person he was most conflicted about sitting on the couch on the small coffee table. "Yo, Issei," said Azazel, the leader of the Fallen Angels. Issei frowned slightly, before entering his room and closing the door behind him. "What are you doing here?" Azazel asked Issei in a clipped tone. "Oh, such an interesting response. I was expecting you to sling curses at me," confessed Azazel honestly with a smirk. "You are, perhaps, the only person I've yet to make up my mind about," replied Issei, as he walked into the small kitchen and filled up a glass with water, which briefly he sipped at. "Oh, and why is that?" asked Azazel curiously. "You have helped me a great deal. It is thanks to your help that I actually have managed to become stronger as a person. Even your perverted input was interesting at times. You weren't wrong about Gabriel," said Issei, as he placed his cup down on the kitchen counter, while Azazel merely looked up at him in interest from his place on the couch. "Yes, I have heard you've been reincarnated by Gabriel. As interested as I am by how that was possible, I'm rather envious at the relationship you have her now. I would honestly give my other arm for a chance like that," said Azazel joyfully. "Yes. That aside, though," said Issei, before he heard the same voice in his head again, "will you die for me?" "On some level, I loathe you," said Issei, as he picked up his glass and downed the rest of his water, and walked over to Azazel, staring at him from across the coffee table. That is what I was expecting from you, to be honest," said Azazel with a nod. "I respect you, as a sensei, as someone who is knowledgeable on sacred gears, as a strong fighter, but you really are a shitty leader. One who can't keep his subordinates in line, Kokaville, for example," said Issei bluntly. "Is it really Kokaville that you are annoyed with, Issei?" said Azazel seriously. "Will you die for me?" Issei heard that in his head. Issei snarled, clenching his fist in annoyance. "No. You know exactly what I'm talking about," said Issei, anger seeping into his tone. "Oh, and who would that be?" asked Azazel calmly. "Don't fuck with me, Azazel. You let that bitch Rainier roam free, and I suffered for it," shouted Issei, as his temper snapping at Azazel's calm question. "Well, I suppose that's true, although you did have ample opportunity to confront me about it," said Azazel, still annoyingly in a calm tone. "Yeah, like when I confronted you about it in the meeting between the devils, angels, and fallen angels. That went well, didn't it?" asked Issei sarcastically. "Well, the situation was different then. Things were too serious then. I couldn't indulge your whims at the time," replied Azazel in an even tone. Issei glared at Azazel but didn't say anything. "You know, they, and I'm sure you know who, are facing Syro Organ as Parage tomorrow," said Azazel, changing the topic. "Like I care," huffed Issei. "They most likely will be defeated without you, not just because of your strength, but also because of the strength you gave them," pointed out Azazel honestly. "Well, if that's the case, then they should have cared more about my feelings. If I was important to them as you say," reported Issei unhappily. "I won't say that they are innocent in the matter. A maiden's heart may be complicated, but the man's heart is fragile, no matter what the media might say these days," said Azazel. Issei hummed at this, but didn't respond. "Although, don't you think you are being a little unfair with them?" asked Azazel. "Funny. Sir Zex asked me almost the same thing. Come to think of it, I bet no doubt he contacted you and Michael after I confronted them and said," Issei calmly. "He did," confirmed Azazel. "In that case, I shouldn't need to repeat myself. But I will, just in case you missed the memo," said Issei, briefly pausing. "I wanted to do much worse, but promised Gabriel otherwise. And also, I'm done being played with. That goes for you too, Azazel," said Issei firmly. "Ah, I see. I guess you were serious about that then. Very well. As a man, a fallen angel, and let's be honest here, the reason you are so angry," said Azazel, getting to Issei narrow in his eyes. "What?" asked Issei. "I apologize for my subordinate's actions for the pain it caused you," said Azazel, as he stood up and gave Issei a small bow before heading to the door. Just before Azazel had reached the door, Issei spoke to him. "I'll be honest here. I acknowledge your apology, but I don't accept it," said Issei, getting Azazel to turn his body to face him again. "Also, I should point out that despite it being your fault, it was there to begin with. If they had cared about me and understood the pain in my heart, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, and they wouldn't be heading to their immediate defeat at the hands of Syro Organ as Parage," continued Issei. Azazel gave a stiff nod. and made him turn around before Issei said one last thing. And just for your personal amusement, I've already had sex on that couch 4 times, said Issei, pointing out to the couch Azazel had been sitting on. Azazel laughed uproariously before turning to the door and opening it. Well, at least you haven't changed completely, laughed Azazel as he looked one last look at Issei. No, but I have changed a lot, said Issei with a smirk as his 10 red angel wings burst from his back. I see. In any case, I'll let them know. You might be surprised, though, at what they can do now, said Azazel before leaving, closing the door behind him. Like I care what they do anymore, thought Issei with a frown. Will you die for me? In his head once more. Issei growled before deciding to take a shower. Man, I hate that bitch, thought Issei angrily, as his mind was still plagued by a certain fallen angel. Line break. That is rather interesting, Ravel, said Lazy Phoenix, a mere image of her daughter, Ravel, in her 20s, the only exception being her hair, which was done up with her ordinate hair decorations. I don't follow, Mother, said Ravel in confusion. Well, from the sounds of things, not only has he cut all ties with the Gremory princess, but he in fact holds no ill will towards you. There will be no better outcome, said Ravel's mother. But Mother, how can you say that? Asked Ravel in shock. Do you not remember what happened with your brother? Questioned Lady Phoenix. Ravel frowned slightly, remembering that spectacle that was a failed marriage between Riser Phoenix and Rias Gremory. While there was nothing we could do since Riser accepted the challenge, it doesn't mean we were happy with it. Sir Zex might as well have cornered Riser into doing it, as, due to Riser's pride, he fell for it easily and we lost the marriage, continued Lady Phoenix. However, now we might game something even better, said Lady Phoenix, getting Ravel to look at her curiously. An angel, one who cannot fall. Add to the fact that he is the holder of the boosted gear. Well, that is quite the rare specimen. Any way you look at it, said Lady Phoenix thoughtfully. I realize that, but considering the situation with President Rias, said Ravel uncertainly. Come on now, Ravel. You know what we are. We are devils. It is in our nature to be selfish. Besides, it was not us who caused the problem. From what you said, this has been the case even before the Gremory battled with Riser. The fact that the Gremory couldn't see the pain in her pawn was is in no way our fault. The blame is solely hers to bear, said Lady Phoenix. I suppose that is true. Nevertheless, I feel somewhat guilty, confessed Ravel as she looked down. My dear, I'm not saying you must do anything right now. All I am saying is that you should act as you would have prior to this incident. You don't need to feel guilty for something that you didn't do, said Lady Phoenix kindly. He did say that he doesn't hold anything against me, agreed Ravel. Indeed, and he even considers you his friend still. You are fortunate, said Lady Phoenix, before sighing upon seeing Ravel's still unsure expression. Listen to me, Ravel, said Lady Phoenix kindly, getting Ravel to look at her again. I may sound selfish here, but I only want what's best for my children. No matter what has happened to him, I can still see that you care deeply for the Red Dragon, or rather, Issei Hyodo. Whether he was a devil in part of the Rias Gremory's barrage, or whether he is now an angel, has nothing changed for you. I don't want you to have any regrets if you really love Hyodo. You should continue to pursue him, if that's what you want. While it is well and good to be considerate of others, you should not do that at the expense of your own feelings, said Lady Phoenix kindly. Ravel nodded at this with a smile. I understand, Mother, and thank you, said Ravel. What are mothers for? Questioned Lady Phoenix with a smile of her own. Scene break, now we're back with Issei. Issei walked to school the next day. Thanks to Azazel, he knew the Occult Research Club would not be at school today, which was somewhat he was relieved about. The day started off normal enough, but after lunch Saji was sent to pick up Issei, as Sona wanted to talk with him. As the two walked, Saji observed Issei for a while, noticing that not only his appearance, but his mannerisms have changed quite a deal. Even simple things like the way he walked and the way he held himself changed. So, is there a reason Sona wants to see me? Asked Issei curiously. She wouldn't say, only that there is something she wants you to see, replied Saji. There was a lull once again, before it was broken by Saji, as they neared Sona's office. Why did you do it? Asked Saji curiously. That's a pretty vague question, said Issei, getting Saji to frown slightly. Alright, just a joke. I know what you are talking about. No need to get all moody, said Issei with a small chuckle before turning serious. Tell me, Saji. If Sona turned on you, would you still care about her? Asked Issei. What do you mean? Why would Sona turn on me? Asked Sanji, genuinely confused, as the two stopped just outside of Sona's office. If Sona betrayed you, would you still care for her? Could you still proclaim to love her? If she broke your heart? Asked Issei with a frown. Saji didn't respond and merely looked at Issei strangely. If the rest of her barrage turned on you, if nearly everyone you thought was your friend turned on you, could you look at them the same way? Asked Issei again. Answer this for me, Saji. If you risked your life for someone, and put your body through hell for someone, endured endless suffering for someone, just so that someone could be happy, would you still consider that proof of one's love? Asked Issei. Saji blinked at this before responding, as Issei expected him to. Yeah, I suppose, said Saji with a small shrug. Well, apparently that wasn't enough for Rias Grimmery, who seemed to think that everything I did for her wasn't enough to show her that I loved her, said Issei before opening the door to Sona's office. Sona stared at Issei with a frown, but also possessed a hint of surprise in her eyes. Based on that look, I take it you must have overheard what I just said to Saji, concluded Issei. I did, replied Sona curtly. Do you disagree? Asked Issei. Sona stared at Issei for a few seconds before shaking her head. No, I suppose you have a point. Rias is my friend and I want the best for her, but I can't deny that she made a mistake here, said Sona coldly. Well, in any case, what is it that you wanted? Asked Issei after a moment. Although you are no longer part of her barrage, I believe that you should at least watch her match with Cyro-Org, said Sona, as a small screen dropped down behind her. Issei blinked at this before sitting down in a seat opposite of Sona and settled himself to watch Cyro-Org's barrage and Ria's barrage battle for supremacy. And that is the end of Chapter 4, Responsibility. Chapter 5, The Battle. Now, the Battle of the Century is about to begin. From the East Gate, it's Cyro-Org's Bill's team, said the announcer, who was met with roars of approval from the excited crowd. And finally, from the West Gate, it's Rias Grimmery's team, finished the announcer, getting more screams of excitement. The Grimmery group looked unsettled, though. Their heart wasn't with them as they marched out. The masses couldn't pick up on it, but Cyro-Org easily did. Cyro-Org searched for the one who he wanted to fight the most, Issei Hyodo, the Red Dragon Emperor. However, he wasn't there. As the announcer told everyone the rules, Cyro-Org came to the decision. Once the announcer finished speaking and said for the two teams to head to the area, Cyro-Org spoke up. Since the Grimmery group is missing their pawn at this time, I too will take my pawn out of the equation, declared Cyro-Org loudly. What's this? Asked the announcer before looking at Grimmery group closely. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems though as the famed Red Dragon Emperor is not present today. This might actually explain why there was a delay for this match. However, Cyro-Org has graciously taken his pawn out of the battle as well. Equalizing things, said the announcer loudly. The crowd was surprised at this, noting that the Opie Dragon was indeed not present. Some of the crowd cheered for Cyro-Org for his gesture, while the others muttered quietly at the lack of the Dragon Emperor. The Grimmery group could say nothing and went to their area in silence. Scene break. We're with the Grimmerys, or the Grimmery squad. The first match had Kiba up versus Barkyel Farkas, a knight of Cyro-Org from the House of Frikars, and a family tames horses in one remaining 72 pillar families. Kiba was being backed by a Farkas and was struggling. I have to use it, that seems, muttered Kiba to himself, thinking of his ace. Before Kiba could use his ace, though, the angry visage of Issei briefly appeared in his mind. No, but still, I can't lose here, thought Kiba. Burkyu allowed me to this one chance. Come at me with everything you have. One strike, shouted Kiba, surprising many. Oh, that is an odd request. It sounds like something a king would say, said Burka from the top of his head. Very well. I will indulge you, said Burka, agreeing to the request, getting the crowd to cheer. The crowd roared in approval. The two knights charged at each other. I'm sorry, Issei. Also, I'm sorry, President, thought Kiba after the clash, as both he and his opponent had been retired. Scene break, next match. The second match had Konako and Rosvaisa against one of Cyro-Org's rooks. Gandamah Bahalam and the other knight of the team, Libin Krakul. Gandamah was a behemoth of a man, 3 meters tall and full of muscle, particularly his arms, which wouldn't have been out of place on a giant. Libin, on the other hand, was gentle-looking blonde, equipped with a sword and light armor. I can't, thought Konako, remembering Issei's words in the classroom, at the power of Senjutsu, before remembering her sister and shuddering slightly. Konako, what's wrong? Asked Rosvaisa in a concerned tone. Konako didn't answer. The battle ended in a draw once again. Konako was taken out quickly, and Rosvaisa exhausted all of her strength to take down their two opponents, leading to the 4 of them being retired. Scene break, the next thing. Governor Azazel, as we were nearly at the halfway point, is there anything you could say on this odd turn of events? Asked the announcer curiously. Yes. It seems that the Gremory group is lacking heart in this battle. Though it is too soon to say so, I don't think they will be able to overcome Cyro-Org and his Parage, who are all united under his dream, said Azazel honestly. Scene break. The next match had Zenovia and Gasper face Ladora Boone, the remaining knight for the Beal team, and Mr. Sabotic, the male bishop. The battle was not much of one. Zenovia was cursed quickly into the fight by the bishop, who temporarily ceded her ability to use holy swords, while Gasper sacrificed himself to buy time, until Zenovia's curse wore off. Afterwards, she unleashed Exterondal on both of her opponents, taking them out. However, Gasper too fell in the battle, leaving the Gremory group with only one knight, a queen, a bishop, and a king, with no pawn. Line break. The Battle of the Queens was next, Akano Hajime against Kushina Abadan. The two took the air and clashed with intense blasts of demonic energy. If Akano used fire, Kushina countered with ice. If Akano used water, Abadan used wind. It was a stalemate. Come on now, Holy Lightning Priestess, is that all you have to offer? You certainly don't live up to your namesake, taunted Kushina. Akano stiffened at this, recalling as Issei claimed he would kill himself if he ever became a fallen angel. I don't need Holy Lightning to beat you, roared Akano, as she unleashed a multitude of attacks at Kushina, exhausting herself. Kushina laughed at this, and a massive hole appeared in front of her, which sucked in all of Akano's attack. This is the end for you, declared Kushina badly. A multitude of holes quickly surrounded Akano and unleashed all of her magic back on her, who, in her exhausted state, was easily retired. Line break. The next to last fight was won in Gremory's group's favor. A 12 was rolled, so Cyro-Org himself came out to fight. Rias couldn't be sent out, as she had no illusions about beating a fresh Cyro-Org, and Rias didn't want to send Azia out, so Zenovia alone went to face Cyro-Org. Knight of Gremory, before this fight begins, please answer me this. Where is the Red Dragon Emperor? Asked Cyro-Org. Zenovia slightly sighed before answering. Issei felt as though he was being unfairly treated and neglected, so he left the Parage in almost a suicidal attempt, said Zenovia honestly. You mean to say that he was forcefully changed from a devil to something else? Asked Cyro-Org curiously. Yes, using his will, he expelled his evil Pifas and nearly died in doing so, answered Zenovia. I see. I thought Hyodo was a man of substance, a man who I considered a rival, said Cyro-Org in thought before shaking his head. However, it seems I was wrong, and he is simply a coward, one who cannot face his challenges head on, finished Cyro-Org, getting Zenovia to glare at him. How dare you, hissed Zenovia angrily, getting Cyro-Org to look at her and raise an eyebrow. You have no idea. We too had no idea, it seems. But I won't let you spit on Issei's name like that, regardless of whether he is a member of President's Barrage or not, whispered Zenovia before shouting towards the end. Cyro-Org grinned at this. There it is. That fire has been missing from all of you so far. Come, Holy Souled Wielder. Give me the fight that Hyodo won't, said Cyro-Org challengingly, as a weird mark appeared on all four of his limbs. Shallow light started to pour out from Cyro-Org's limbs before the marks vanished. A huge explosion from Cyro-Org burst from Cyro-Org, the wind pressure from the blast forming a crater under him. Cyro-Org's body was now bathed in a white glow. It was Toki. Zenovia was obviously muttering of the crowd and the announcer, and charged Cyro-Org. Cyro-Org fiercely changed the oncoming Holy Souled Wielder as well. Zenovia swung Exterondal at Cyro-Org, who was met with a fist. Waves of energy burst from both of them, binding them in the crowd. When they jumped back, the results of the clash were revealed. Oh, you actually cut through my Toki. Even wounded me slightly, said Cyro-Org appraisingly, as he observed a small cut on his fist. I won't let you insult Issei like that. He's already suffered enough, and I won't let you add to that, especially by insulting him, said Zenovia coldly. I see. I am impressed by your will. Chapter 6. Would you love me? Issei had watched the entire match, with a poker face that Sona couldn't see through in the slightest. Even of his former and some current friends were touched by the opponents. Issei didn't flinch in the slightest, nearing tearing his eyes from the screen. As the battle ended and the broadcast switched to opinions on the battle from various pieces, Issei stood up. I will take my leave now, said Issei simply. Before you go, just tell me one thing, said Sona quietly. Issei paused but didn't turn around. Will you ever forgive them? Asked Sona curiously. Issei didn't respond and merely stared at the door, leaving his back facing Sona. After a solid minute, Issei turned his head over his shoulder and looked Sona in the eye. Perhaps, said Issei, before closing his eyes and turning back to the door. Although, said Issei, getting Sona's attention, for some, there cannot be redemption. Whether I come to see them as friends again is entirely different. To whether I can forgive them or not, said Issei before walking to the door. However, some may be forgiven easily than others, said Issei before he opened the door and left, closing it behind silently. Sona stared at the door for a moment, studying it intensely. Well, all things considered, things could be worse, but it seems Rias has lost her dragon for good, thought Sona grimly. Line break. You've been surprisingly quiet for a while now, Drake. Is something wrong? Thought Issei. No, not really. As strange as it may sound, there are things, in fact, better for me now, replied Drake honestly. That's odd. Better how? Asked Issei curiously as he walked through Ko, school having finished some time during the battle between Cyborg and Rias' respective barrages. Well, not to sound selfish, but ever since that time, your perviness had gone down quite a bit. Even more after you talked with Gabriel, and even more after that, when you mated with the Naoshoku. It even lessened each time you did, said Drake thoughtfully. I don't understand, thought Issei in confusion. Well, with Gremory acknowledging your perviness and using it to help you to get stronger, my heart was almost broken, especially after that old geezer gave us some of those appalling names, said Drake, sounding close to his tears. However, since then, you've changed and become stronger in your non-perverse ways, even faster than I could have imagined. You are almost someone that I can be proud of, praised Drake. Yeah, I did put you through a lot, didn't I, Drake? Sorry about that, thought Issei sheepishly. A lot indeed, agreed Drake. Well, at least things are better now, thought Issei before stopping at a door. Issei was now standing outside his previous residence, the Hyodo household, which, for intent all purposes, was the Occult Research Club household. Issei sighed for a moment before knocking on a door. After a brief wait, Issei's father opened the door. Issei? Said Issei's father in shock. Issei didn't know what to expect, but he was suddenly pulled into the house and given a hug. My boy, where did you disappear off to? Asked the older Hyodo male, before calling his wife. Issei's mom came by for a moment, and upon seeing Issei, quickly ran up to him and gave him a hug as well. Now I feel bad. I thought you would have been happy, having a bunch of pretty daughters without a perverted son, said Issei with a laugh. Even if you're a pervert, you're our little pervert, said Issei's dad, joyfully, with his wife nodding, before he leaned closer. And, to be honest, the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, whispered Issei's father, getting his son back to look at him in surprise. You mean... asked Issei in shock. He just gave Issei a small wink before leaning back. Where have you been all this time? Asked Issei's mother. Well, that's some story, but mostly it was a journey of self-discovery. I even got my own house and a job now, said Issei with a chuckle. Really? Asked Issei's mom in surprise. Yep, I really grew up, said Issei proudly. I'll say, just look at how big you've gotten. I'm envious of my own son, said Issei's dad, referring to his son's new and impressive physique. Ha! Well, if I'm going to be a man, might as well look one, right? Asked Issei bashfully. I'll go make us some tea, said Issei's mother before heading to the kitchen. In the meantime, said Issei's dad as he dragged Issei to a single seat on the sofa and sat himself down on the couch. I want to know who the special lady is, said Issei's dad quietly. What lady? Asked Issei in surprise. Don't be coy with me. You'd think I wouldn't notice my little boy finally graduated from a little pervert to a man. I'll be that is where my new physique is from, said Issei's dad, getting his son to look away bashfully. Well, it's someone actually new, confessed Issei. I figured. They didn't say anything, but a lot of the girls around here have been rather sad this past month. They tried to hide it, but being married for such a long time helps you pick up for what girls is hiding something. I'm guessing something happened between you all, said Issei's father stagely. Issei was rather surprised at his father's foresight, but nodded nevertheless. Yeah. Was rather surprised at his father's foresight, but nodded nevertheless. Yeah, some things happened, and things aren't quite right between us at all, you know. It is also the reason I got a new place, said Issei truthfully. I see. Well, enough about that. Tell me about this new girl. Is she stacked? Asked Issei's dad lecherously. Well, I can't deny I'm my father's son, thought Issei in amusement. Yeah, she is, said Issei with a chuckle before his mother came down for tea and all of them sat next to their husband. Well, tell us about her, Issei. How'd you meet? Asked Issei's dad. Another. asked Issei's mother in surprise, in which her husband nodded. Well, it was interesting to say the least, said Issei with a nervous chuckle as he recalled meeting Kuroka again. Flashback. Okay, I think I missed Ko badly, said Issei aloud as he looked around and found himself in a strange open meadow. There was a lush forest behind him, with a small town in front of him. But something felt off to Issei. It feels like I'm seeing something, but it doesn't exist, thought Issei in confusion before he quickly jumped back to avoid a blast of energy. Issei quickly summoned Drake, preparing to enter his balance breaker, but when he heard a voice, "Eh? The Red Dragon Emperor, what are you doing here?" asked a voice Issei recognized. As the smoke kicked up from the attack cleared, a voluptuous woman in black kimono was revealed to Issei. Accident?" said Issei as he lowered his guard somewhat. "You managed to find this place by accident?" questioned Kuroka in surprise. "Yeah, what is this place anyway?" asked Issei curiously, lowering his arm, so it was now by his side again, but not dropping his guard. Don't worry about that. Although, now that you're here, even if it was by accident, what do you say about giving me some kittens?" proposed Kuroka, as she walked closer to Issei until she was right in front of him, and looked up at him with a half-izzled gaze. "Would you love them? Would you love me as well?" asked Issei seriously. "Of course I would. What mother would love her kittens and her mate?" purred Kuroka. Issei stared into her eyes for a moment, searching for the truth behind closing his eyes and giving a small nod. "Okay, why not?" said Issei. "Huh?" exclaimed Kuroka in shock as her eyes widened in surprise. "What, were you joking?" asked Issei curiously. "No, I just didn't think you would accept," said Kuroka, still in shock. "Well, you were straightforward about it, so why not?" asked Issei as he caused the boosted gear to disappear. Is this a joke?" asked Kuroka curiously, eyes narrowing. "Nope," said Issei simply. "That's fine with me," said Kuroka as she pushed Issei onto his back and slowly crawled up to him. "So, they basically had sex. You're welcome." I'm not reading all of that, okay? It's kind of weird. Okay, let's just be realistic here. Scene break, now we're back into the conversation with his parents. "Well, I can say that I had met her a while ago. However, I ran into her again about 3 days after I left here," said Issei, after snapping out of his memories. "Really? How did that go?" asked Issei's mother. "Well, it was interesting. We talked mostly about what we had been up to lately. After a while, she recommended I got a place to stay, since I have a job, and she offered to help out as well, since there's been teaching me on some new things," said Issei lamely. "When can we meet her?" asked Issei's father. Well, the truth is, she is actually Konako's big sister, and they're not exactly on the best of terms at the moment, so I don't think bringing her by is a good idea right now," said Issei uneasily. After all, Kuroka was a straight devil, and devils lived here. "I see. Well, hopefully, once they reconcile, you can introduce us," said Issei's father. "Sure. Why not?" said Issei with a slightly nervous chuckle. After a bit more small talk, Issei decided that it was time for him to leave. "Come by again soon," said Issei's mother from the door, her husband behind her as they both waved to her son. "Will do," said Issei with a smile before walking off. "Well, isn't that nice? He got himself a girlfriend and everything seems to be going much better for him now," said Issei's mother. "Yeah, that's the reason," thought Issei's father perversely. And that is the end of Chapter 6. Would you love me? Chapter 7. Is Forgiveness Earned? Zenobia had been unconscious for over 4 hours now. While her body wasn't weak in any sense of the word, taking a brutal punch from Cyro Org, then exhausting all of her energy in a final attack, had drained her completely. As she returned to consciousness, she found that she wasn't in as much pain as she expected. "I was wondering when you would wake up," said a voice, getting Zenobia to turn in its direction. Zenobia stared blankly at the person before turning her head away. "What are you doing here, Issei?" asked Zenobia, as the newly reincarnated angel walked up to her bedside. "I saw the game, heard everything too," Issei muttered, getting Zenobia to look at him. "Did you come to gloat? I wouldn't hold it against you if you did. We wouldn't win without you," queried Zenobia. "No, I'm not that petty. True, I tore all of you on the club room, and I don't regret anything I said. But I was venting a bit as well," confessed Issei. "You weren't wrong," Zenobia added, to which Issei nodded. "So why are you here?" asked Zenobia. "Like I said, I heard everything, particularly what you said," said Issei. Zenobia turned her head away from Issei again. "I meant it all. Whether you agree or disagree with it, it doesn't matter," said Zenobia. Who said I disagree with it? I was surprised, in fact, especially that you were one to say all of that." "Why?" asked Issei curiously. "The way we all turned on you. It was just like what happened to me with the church," Zenobia started, looking back at Issei again. "I knew something that they didn't want to acknowledge, and was turned on because of it." While the circumstances are not identical, I feel as though the intent between both situations is similar. Similar enough that I feel guilty and ashamed of myself, said Zenobia. Oh, so you mean to say if they weren't similar, you wouldn't feel guilty? Asked Issei curiously. Don't twist my words. You know I'm the most intellectual individual. You know I'm not the most intellectual individual, retorted Zenobia. What we did was wrong. There's no question there. The reason I felt extra guilty is because I should have understood enough to not turn on you. I know that much hurts. And then I did the same in turn, to someone who has done nothing but nice to me, said Zenobia sourly. Well, you weren't there at the time, so how could you know? Said Issei airily. I realized that. This isn't why I feel bad. The fact that I turn on you, without even understanding your reluctance and thinking of only of Rias, is why I feel bad. The church thought only of keeping their faith, and I thought of only Rias. Either way, both of us were overlooked by those we thought we trust. That's why I feel bad, explained Zenobia. I never thought of it like that, said Issei thoughtfully, placing a hand under his face and scratching his jaw. Although, I still find it strange how passionately you defended me. I mean, Sire Or can say all he wants. He doesn't know the truth, muttered Issei. Because, after how much we hurt you, I won't stand for anyone else doing so again, said Zenobia hotly. Why? That's what I'm not understanding, questioned Issei, genuinely confused. Even in the beginning, I didn't think much of you, just another devil. However, the way you strongly defended Azia and stood against us was interesting, said Zenobia, getting Issei's face to narrow. However, the moment where I knew what I thought of you changed was when you asked Lord Michael to allow me to pray, said Zenobia. What? Why? Change to what? Queried Issei. That was the point. I realized why others liked you, and the point I started to like you more as a friend, said Zenobia with a smile. I told you that I wanted to join your Parage in the future, as I wanted to stay with you. However, now that is impossible, and furthermore, we hurt you, said Zenobia with a small frown before turning away again. Issei didn't respond for a minute, absorbing what Zenobia said. Do you really mean all that? Asked Issei softly, getting Zenobia to look back at him. Every word. I love you, Issei, said Zenobia, getting Issei to inhale sharply. How can I trust that you won't hurt me again? Asked Issei quietly. I promise on my honor as a knight. And on my blade, said Zenobia strongly, getting Issei to look at her with a searching look. Issei suddenly smiled, and it eased Zenobia's nerve. Thank you, Zenobia. I forgive you, and would like to be friends again, said Issei hopefully. I'd like to be more than that. But I will build my trust up with you again first, said Zenobia bluntly, which caused Issei to chuckle. Well, you know me. I can't stay mad at the great set of boobs for too long, said Issei, somewhat embarrassed. Does that mean you will forgive the others in time? Asked Zenobia curiously, which caused Issei's face to harden. Maybe some, but some, especially Rias and Azia, I won't be able to forgive. They hurt me too much, especially those two, said Issei stiffly. I see, said Zenobia, before the door room opened. Oh, I didn't think I see you here, Red Dragon, said the figure that just entered the room, closing the door behind him. Well, I'm sure you realize by now I'm full of surprises, Sire Org, said Issei as the Beal entered the room. I suppose I should apologize first and foremost. I judged you without knowing the situation, and after how desperately she fought for your honor, I would be wrong to do so, said Sire Org. Zenobia didn't respond and merely turned her head away with a small blush, a surprising action from a normally calm and also shameless stoic. Yeah, I didn't expect that much from Zenobia either, but I can't say I'm upset about it, said Issei kindly, getting Zenobia's blush to increase marginally. Now that you are here, though, I have no right to ask, but what happened? Asked Sire Ori curiously. Like you said, you have no right to ask. This is between me and Grimmery's Parage, said Issei, getting a stiff nod from Sire Org. True, but she is my cousin, and while beating her in a battle does help my reputation, I care for her all the same, said Sire Org firmly. Isn't that the case? Muttered Issei sourly. If you must know, your cousin is a rather selfish person when she sees and wants to be and disregards others and how they feel, said Issei harshly, getting Sire Org to narrow his eyes. What do you mean by that? Asked Sire Org stiffly. What I mean is there are only so many times a person will risk their life to save you and be taken for granted for it before they snap. That's all that happens, said Issei bitterly. Sire Org didn't respond. Although I heard you wanting to face me in battle, I also would love to fight you, but not for reputation. I want to fight you because you are awesome. Because you are someone who cares deeply for his Paraj, who cared deeply for him in turn. I saw you in battle. You are all united. I don't wish to fight you, because that's how things would have gone. If I was in the game, I don't want to fight you for prestige either. I want to fight you because you are someone worth fighting. Someone who fights for others and sacrifices himself for as well as the other, declared Issei strongly. Now I feel even guiltier for having questioned your worth. I could have not asked for a more honorable battle. I would joy facing you in battle, said Saruorg. That being said, I should warn you, said Issei, getting Saruorg to look at him in interest. I saw you use Toki, so if it only is fair, I tell you that I have learnt true senjutsu from a master. Furthermore, said Issei, before his wings burst from his back, I'm an angel now, and am capable of using light as my weapon, something which is absolutely toxic for a devil, finished Issei. Saruorg merely grinned. I'm getting excited, Saruorg said in anticipation. In any case, releasing my wings broke my key cloak, so I'm going to need to go now. I look forward to our upcoming battle, though. Also, see you later, Zenobia, said Issei, before disappearing in a burst of light. That Issei sure is something, commented Saruorg with a laugh, before exiting the room, leaving Zenobia alone. He is, thought Zenobia, happy that Issei finally forgave her. Line break. Issei arrived at home and started startled to find someone already there. Irina, what are you doing here? Also, why are the angels suddenly breaking into my house this week? Asked Issei before whispering the second part. Irina was sitting on the sofa and frigid. Issei? Struggled Irina, before she simply stood up and offered something to Issei with her head bow. Issei looked in awe surprise. Is this what I think it is? Asked Issei curiously, as he took the offered object. Yep. I've kept it all this time, said Irina cheerfully, with a forced smile. Issei looked at the object. It was a cardboard dagger, held together with tape. Why are you giving this to me? Asked Issei quietly. Issei, I'm really sorry, said Irina sadly. Issei looked at her and frowned. Issei gave her back the cardboard dagger, and Irina felt as though her heart had been torn down. Issei then disappeared in a flash of light, and Irina dropped to her knees, tears beginning to fall from her eyes. He won't forgive me, thought Irina sadly, before another flash of light occurred, and Issei was back in front of her. Issei, said Irina, with a sniff, which turned to a shock when she saw what he was holding. In Issei's hand was a crudely made cardboard dagger. Issei, you kept yours as well, said Irina, in surprise from her place on the ground. Issei offered her hand, and she took it, standing back to her feet and quickly wiped her eyes. Of course I did. You were my first and only friend growing up. When you left, it was one of the only things I had to remember you by, even if I thought you were a boy, said Issei quietly. Irina gave a small giggle at this, but it was strangled. I still can't believe you thought I was a boy, said Irina softly as she blinked away her tears. You know, Irina, out of all the people who turned on me, yours probably hurt me the most, said Issei sadly. Irina looked at Issei sadly. I'm sorry, Issei. I didn't know about what had happened to you, said Irina. I know. That's why I'm not upset with you like I am with those four, said Issei, growling towards the end. But even before all of this, before Drake, before becoming a devil, before all of it, you were my friend, said Issei sadly. I'm so sorry, Issei, said Irina tearfully. Out of everyone there, you should have been on my side. It really hurt me when you agreed with everyone that I was a bad guy, said Issei, as he grimaced slightly in pain. Issei, what can I do to make it up to you? Asked Irina desperately. Issei thought of this for a moment. Show me your wings, said Issei. After a moment of confusion, Irina complied, revealing her 2 wings to Issei. If you have impure thoughts outside of love, you'll fall, won't you? Questioned Issei, rhetorically, already knowing the answer. Irina nodded. Then kiss me here and now, said Issei, getting Irina to blush. What? Stuttered Irina in embarrassment. If you really love me, you won't fall, right? If you don't fall, it will mean you love me, truly love me. Gabriel told me that an angel who follows their heart, not out of sin, but out of love, won't ever be able to fall. That is why, if you really love me, this will prove it without a doubt, said Issei calmly. Irina took a moment to absorb what Issei had said and nodded her head. Will you do it? Asked Issei curiously. I will. I love you, Issei, and if that's what I need to do to prove it, then I will gladly do it, declared Irina boldly as she placed her cardboard dagger down on the coffee table. Issei walked over to the table as well, placing his dagger down to Irina and turned to her face. Irina's heart quickened as she drew closer to Issei. Taking in his stern-looking face and calming brown eyes, Irina stepped closer to Issei until she closely hair's breadth away from touching him and angled her head upwards. Eyes half closing as she leaned in, Issei brought his face closer to Irina's, so close that she could feel his warm breath against her face. "Last chance to change your mind," whispered Issei. "My mind is made up. I love you," whispered Irina before pressing her lips against Issei's. Issei reciprocated the kiss, wrapping his left arm around Irina's waist while gently caressed her cheek and neck. Deepening the kiss, both had closed their eyes, and in the moment they only felt each other. Irina was in bliss. She had been waiting for this moment for months, and now after what transpired, worried that it might never happen, but Irina was really kissing him. After a few more seconds, the two broke the kiss. Eyes opening slowly, Irina looked into Issei's eyes happily. Issei looked behind Irina briefly before turning his gaze back to Irina. "I love you, Irina, and I guess this means you really love me as well," said Issei happily, which caused Irina to shed a tear. Irina still had two pure white wings behind her, and that was all the evidence that Issei needed. Suddenly, though, Issei started to tear up, which surprised Irina even more when he pulled her into a hug and buried his face into her shoulder. "Just please promise me," said Issei weakly. "Please promise me that you will always love me and won't turn on me again," Issei continued tearfully. You had so much more of my heart than anyone in that room, because you weren't just a girl I liked. You were my friend even before all of it. My precious childhood friend," said Issei, giving Irina's eyes to widen. "As far as everyone in that room, you were irreplaceable to me," said Issei, giving Irina's heart to soar. Irina gently pulled Issei's head off her shoulder and looked into his bloodshot eyes. "I love you, Issei, now and forever," said Issei before giving Issei another kiss, which he happily reciprocated. "I love you too, Irina, now and forever," said Issei with a smile. And this is Chapter 7. Forgiveness is earned. Chapter 8. Enemies Tell No Lies. Issei woke up with a smile on his face as he hopped out of bed. Things were getting better once again. Irina and Zenobia had both been forgiven and had showed true devotion to him. He felt tingly inside, just remembering how things went with Irina. He was really glad his childhood friend was back on his side. Walking into the bathroom, Issei turned on the hot water for the shower, and once it was good temperature, stepped in. After showering, he grabbed a towel and dried off his body, before wrapping it around his waist and grabbed another one to wipe his face. Standing in front of the mirror, wiping the last bit of moisture off, he used it to wipe the mirror down to look at himself. As he pulled the towel away, he flinched. "Ah, what's the matter? Not happy to see me?" said the woman in the mirror. "What do you want? Haven't you done enough?" growled Issei, hatefully staring at the visage of Rainier, his constant source of torment. "Me? What have I done? I never hurt you, little Issei," cooed Rainier. Issei growled, baring his teeth. "What's the matter? Are you still upset you never got to feel my boobs? Is that it?" teased Rainier. Issei clenched his fist. "Or maybe you're just upset because deep down you know all of those girls are just like me," said Rainier darkly. Issei's fist shot out of and smashed the mirror, cracking it heavily and leaving the hole in the middle. But he could still see Rainier's face around it. "Will you die for me?" Line break. Issei suddenly sat up sharply in bed. "Damn bitch," grumbled Issei in annoyance, before feeling two mounds press against his back. Was it that crow again?" asked Kuroka curiously as she dropped her arms around Issei. "Yeah," muttered Issei, relaxing his right fist that he unknowingly clenched. "You know, no matter what she did, you'll always have me," purred Kuroka comfortingly. "Yeah," muttered Issei, relaxing a little bit more. "That's better. Besides, who cares about her? Or even them, for that matter?" questioned Kuroka. "You know, you can't fool me," said Issei quietly. What do you mean?" asked Kuroka curiously. "I know you want to fix things with Shirone," said Issei. "I know, but I don't want to hurt you either," agreed Kuroka. "No matter what she did to me, she is your sister." The love for a sibling is something to cherish, said Issei quietly. As for the love for a loved one, added Kuroka. I know, said Issei before going quiet. Well, how did things go yesterday? I came by here late at night and felt the presence of an angel that wasn't you, questioned Kuroka. Zenobia and I patched things up. After that, I came here, where Irina was waiting and we fixed things between us as well. Maybe even more than that, recounted Issei. Oh, is that so? Do I have competition? Joked Kuroka. No, the pieces of my heart you hold are both very different. Irina was my childhood friend before all of this, and you accepted me for who I am, even if it was also for your own ambitions, and took my virginity, said Issei seriously. That makes it sound like you and I don't have a deep emotional connection at all, said Kuroka with a frown, only for Issei to turn his head and kiss her. You also love me and I love you, even if it's rather new, added Issei. That's more like it, smiled Kuroka, before giving Issei another kiss. Thank God it's Friday. Oops, sorry about that, said Issei with a deep sigh, before apologizing to Kuroka when he felt her wince. Well, you are an angel, I suppose. I'll learn to deal with it, said Kuroka with a very grin. Yeah, I'll try to be careful, though, now that I need to go to school, said Issei as he tied up and only for Kuroka to swiftly move in on him and sit in his lap. Are you sure you don't want to do something else first? Cooed Kuroka, looking at Issei with half-lidded eyes. Issei picked up an Amora's Nekoshode and put her on the bed before getting up to the shower. Kuroka pouted as Issei left her there and Hurt turned him on the water. She was about to leave, before Issei popped his head back in the bedroom. Well, are you coming or what? Asked Issei teasingly before disappearing again. Kuroka gave a cherished-like smile before following Issei. Line break. Issei walked into his classroom with a small smile on his face and sat down on his desk. What are you so happy about? Asked Motohama suspiciously. The usual, replied Issei. Usual? What would that be? Queried Matsuda. Issei merely smirked, causing his two preferred friends to fume. Damn you, Issei, they both shouted, to which Issei laughed. Morning, Issei. How are you today? Asked a very chirpy Irina, as she stood to the left of Issei's desk. Morning, Irina. How's my best childhood friend doing? Replied Issei, causing Irina to beam. Great. The Lord's President's very strong today, replied Irina happily. I'm glad, said Issei with a nod and smile, enjoying Irina's presence significantly more than previously. So how are you, Issei? Asked Irina curiously. Will you die for me? Issei flinched for the barest of moments, but Irina noticed it. Are you still thinking about the past? Questioned Irina with a small frown. Issei's expression soured for a moment before he felt Irina place her hand on his shoulder. It's okay, Issei, said Irina before leaning closer to Issei. I'll never leave your side again, whispered Irina softly, while giving Issei a beautiful smile. Issei returned her smile when she leant back. Thanks, Irina. I needed that, confessed Issei, which only caused his childhood friend's smile to grow. Anytime. What are friends for? Remarked Irina, before taking her seat in immediate left of Issei. Turning back to the front, Issei was greeted to sour expressions of Matsuda and Motohama. Another beautiful girl, Issei. Don't you already have one? Stop hogging them all, complained Motohama. At the very least, share some with us, added Matsuda, with Motohama nodding in agreement. No, said Issei in annoyance, standing up from his chair and slamming his hand against the desk. If you want girls, get them yourselves. You both have traits that girls find desirable, such as athleticism and intelligence, but instead, do nothing of which but stupid porn all of the time, shouted Issei, getting Matsuda and Motohama to gasp, and quite a few girls in the classroom to be in shock. Did Hyoto say just watch porn was stupid? Muttered a girl, and her neighbors. Blasphemy, shouted the two perverts. Yeah, well, here's what I think about your stupid porn, said Issei, as he stepped over Irina and grasped her face. Isina, what are you... started Irina, only to be cut off mid-word, as Issei leaned down and pressed his lips against hers. The class gaped at Issei's brazen actions, while Matsuda and Motohama looked like they had just been stabbed. Issei decided to be slightly more adventurous in kissing this time, and gently pushed, who allowed it after a briefly moment. Irina moaned into the kiss, not caring that she was currently making out with her previously perverted and loathed by most childhood friend, in the middle of the classroom, filled her with fellow students. To her, there was only Issei as herself at the moment. After a full 30 seconds of tongue jousting, Issei pulled back and spared a moment to look Irina lovingly, before turning back to his former perverted brothers. "And that's why your porn is stupid. It pales in comparison to a real woman," declared Issei before sitting back down with a smile, looking over to Irina, who had now regained herself and was blushing slightly under the gazes of her fellow classmates. "Well, I suppose you're feeling better now," commented a new arrival to the class. Issei followed the voice and saw Zenobia with her usual stoic suppression. "Yeah, I guess I am," said Issei, getting Zenobia a smile as well. Zenobia then pulled out a condom and looked at Issei. "Too soon?" asked Issei curiously, while the rest of his class looked at her in shock. "A little," chuckled Issei, to Zenobia nodded before placing the condom back, wherever she got it from. As Zenobia went to take her seat, the teacher finally showed up and was bell rang and the class got underway. After a rather normal day of class, during which Issei spent a fair time zooming off and thought the day was over, gathering his things and ready to leave, Issei was approached by two former exorcists turned supernatural beings. "Issei, can I come over now?" asked Irina eagerly. "I too would like to continue spending time for you for now," added Zenobia with a nod. "Sure, why not?" said Issei happily, after which the three left. In the classroom, the trio had just vacated. A certain green-eyed blonde was looking down at her lap unhappily. "Issei," thought Ozia sadly, before grabbing her things and heading to the club room. Line break. As the two angels and devils neared the front gate of their school, another blonde, this one possessing blue eyes, was waiting for them, who stopped to listen to the figure. "Issei, may I speak with you?" asked Ravel timidly, a little surprised at her seeing her romantic interest in walking with two people, which she had previously denounced. Sure. Is it quick?" asked Issei with a raised eyebrow. "Not particularly," answered Ravel. "In that case, follow me. We can discuss this wherever it is, at my new house," said Issei coolly, as he started walking again, now with the three following him. As he newly formed quarrel left the school, a pair of violet eyes were staring at Issei's back intently. "I don't know yet, but I'm not letting the one man who accepted me for who I truly am get away from me," thought Akano determinedly. Line break. As the group neared Issei's apartment, Issei quickly used his newly acquainted Senjutsu's prowess to sense if Kuroko was there. After a moment, he confirmed that she had returned back to wherever her group was, which Issei actually still didn't know. As the foursome finally reached Issei's room in the apartment block, which he owned alone, he let the three guests in, who all sat on his couch while he stood up. "So, what's up, Raffle?" asked Issei cautiously, crossing his arms and over his chest, leaning against the wall behind him, staring at his guest. "Well, my mother would actually like to speak with you. I am not sure what for, although I do have my suspicions," said Ravel secretively. "I see," said Issei, rubbing his chin at the thought. "Well, if that's the case, I'd be happy to. Maybe I'll be able to track down Sire Org and have a fight with him," said Issei thoughtfully. "If you'd like, I could set up the necessary preparations for you and alert Sire Org Bill of your intentions," said Ravel quickly. "Really? That would be great, Ravel. Thanks," said Issei, giving Phoenix a genuine smile which made her heart flutter. "Of course, it's only natural you take advantage of such skilled organizers such as I," said Ravel with fake hauntedness. If that's the case, how do you feel about helping me deal with the Opie Dragon stuff? To be honest, aside from changing where my money is going, a lot of the other organizational stuff right over my head. I could use your help if it wouldn't be any trouble," asked Issei modestly. "I would be more than happy to," replied Ravel, which caused Issei to smile once again. "Thank you, Ravel. I'll truly be in your debt for this. It was a nightmare just doing the transfer," said Issei humbly, before letting out a chuckle towards the end. "Leave it all to me. I will be the best manager ever," declared Ravel proudly. All right. In that case, if Sire Org is free, I'll come to the underworld tomorrow, considering it is the weekend," said Issei, getting an attentive nod from Ravel. At that moment, there was a shock knock at the door. Feeling the presence of a certain annoying fallen angel, Issei frowned. "What do you want, Azazel?" shouted Issei, loud enough that the faction leader could hear him. "May I come in?" asked Azazel through the door. "If you are alone, sure," said Issei, after which the fallen entered. "You have company. Interesting company at that," commented Zazel, looking over the three sitting on his couch. "What do you want?" asked Issei tiredly. "Well, if it isn't too much, what I want, rather what someone else wants, is a rather sensitive information right now. So I will only say that someone not directly allied with us and wants to meet with you," said Azazel. Why do I get the feeling that you are leaving a rather crucial part of information out? Asked Issei with narrowed eyes. Come on now. You must know I would never do that, chuckled Azazel, but it didn't fool Issei. I can't say who this person is. It's only to do a rather high standing in the world, said Azazel truthfully. I see, said Issei slowly. Well, that's all I had to say for you for now. See you around, said Azazel before leaving. So, anything you guys want to do now? Asked Issei curiously. Not particularly, since you said it too soon for us to make a baby, said Zenobia, getting both Irina and Ravel to widen their eyes. Zenobia, you are still too forward, exclaimed Irina. Such improper behavior, commented Ravel, appearing affronted. Any other suggestions? Asked Issei. After a brief pause, Issei proposed an idea. Well, we could always head to the underworld. Maybe Sarah is free and I can have a fight now, as well as whatever Lady Phoenix wants, suggested Issei. Well, I don't mind, but it is a good idea for two angels to come to the underworld, asked Zenobia. True, such a movement could cause discontent, especially since some are disgruntled that the Red Dragon has now defected to heaven. They may try something, if not against you, probably against Irina, said Ravel hesitantly. That's fine. Anyone who tries to fight me will understand why you shouldn't provoke those who can use your weakness against you, and if anyone tries to touch Irina, I'll smite them where they stand, said Issei calmly before growling towards the end. Irina's heart soared at this, with Ravel and Zenobia both hoping no one actually tried anything. Very well then, we can head off at once, said Ravel, as she stood up and mentioned for the rest of them to gather before utilizing a special magic circle, which would carry all of the types of supernatural creatures to the underworld. Line break. The four reappeared outside the Phoenix's manor, while Zenobia, Irina, and Issei glanced around in interest. Ravel walked up to the gates and spoke with the guard stationed there after a brief conversation. The gates opened and Ravel gestured for the three to follow her. Any problems? Asked Issei curiously as he examined the land of the Phoenix clan. No, there was some hesitancy at your presence, but my assurance was enough to dissuade all any ill thoughts towards you and Irina, replied Ravel succinctly. As the quadrant entered the manor, Irina and Zenobia looked around in surprise, while Issei simply raised an eyebrow. It is very lavish, commented Issei, seeing enough gold to buy a continent in a hallway alone. The ceiling was very high, easily more than 10 meters above ground level. The hallway was expensive, so much that it felt though it was a room by itself. Dozens of phoenix statues made it out of pure gold and were placed on every few meters, somehow able to remain solid even with brightly burning flames within the mouth of each sculpture. Yes. Well, it has been built upon generations of Phoenix Clan members. Some of fixtures in the building are older than current Satans, and some are only as old as you. The Phoenix deals with regeneration, and from the ashes this is reflected in the design of the structure, explained Ravel. Come, I will show you two around and I will alert my mother, Issei. Please remain here for someone to take you to Mother, requested Ravel before leading Irina and Zenobia away. Issei stood there in silence, merely examining the luxurious hallway in interest. After a minute had passed, Issei's guide arrived, and it was certainly not someone he was expecting. Hello, Red Dragon. We meet again, said Riser, one of Ravel's older brothers, and someone who Issei had beaten the stuffing out of in the past. How are you, Riser? I recall you had been traumatized by somewhat, inquired Issei blankly. Riser grimaced at the reminder of his past before moving it past it. In any case, I will take you to Mother. Please follow me, said Riser before turning on his heel, with Issei following. As the two walked, only the sound of their light footfalls was heard. The tension was rather heavy between the two for a different reason. Eventually, Riser broke the silence. I realize this is personal, but I am curious, and given the state of things, I do believe I have some personal stake in it as well, stated Riser before Issei interjected. Let me guess. You want to know what happened with Gramarye, right? Questioned Issei, getting Riser to stop momentarily at Issei's face before walking off again. Gramarye. How odd, such a cold manner of speaking, commented Riser. Cold? Hardly, scoffed Issei. This being a woman you nearly killed yourself for. I find it hard to believe you would act like this, said Riser. Ah, how surprising. Even you couldn't see what she couldn't. Hilarious, droned Issei. At this point, Riser stopped walking and completely turned to face Issei. What do you mean? What can I see that she couldn't? Questioned Riser in genuine confusion. Riser, you saw how hard I fought for Gramarye, both during the raiding game and our battle of single combat. Why do you think I would go so far? Risk utter destruction, sacrifice parts of my body permanently, place my own being into danger, the likes of which could end with my utter eradication. What do you think that means? Asked Issei as he stopped walking as well. Well, initially, I thought you were merely fighting your hardest due to the famed Gremory's kindness, and that is which motivated you to push yourself to your limits, began Riser. And what did you think it was afterwards? Questioned Issei. Lust, at first, but then I thought to myself, that is what motivated me, and she found it revolting, answered Riser honestly. Towards the end, though, right before you defeated me, I saw something different. Love, finished Riser. I see. You saw that I loved her at that point. Now imagine me doing this over and over again, numerous times, each time coming closer and closer to death. Tell me, don't you think that she could have realized I loved her by then? Asked Issei darkly. She did, though, said Riser before noticing Issei's stunning expression. Didn't she? Finished Riser. No, she didn't. That spoiled princess that is Rias Gremory only thought of her own needs and desires. Her lowly pawn, one who actually sacrificed limb to protect her interest, was chided for not understanding her and not being able to show her his love to her. Apparently nearly dying on multiple occasions just to keep a smile on someone's face is not proof of one's love to one another. I honestly think that you're the lucky one, Riser. Despite it all, you never had any heart toyed with broken to pieces by a woman you loved and would give your life for. Now, though, if she was to express her undying love to me, I'd laugh in her face, said Issei calmly. Will you die for me? She is a true devil, growled Issei unhappily. Riser was momentarily speechless and so resumed walking, leading Issei once to who promptly followed. Eventually, the duo reached the set of ornate double doors. Easily 3 meters in height, Riser placed his hands against the door handle and prepared to open it, only to pause. No matter what happens or is said in there, please take care of my sister, Issei. As someone who understands heartbreak, please don't cause her the same, and if you do not reciprocate her feelings, please be gentle with her, said Riser, before opening the door and gesturing for Issei to enter alone. Issei walked past Riser and entered the room. As Riser made to close the door, he heard Issei mutter one last thing. I swear it, whispered Issei, before the door shut behind him. Riser stared at the closed doors for a moment before walking off. Thank you, Issei Hyodo, thought Riser as he walked off to go and check up on his sister. That is the end of Chapter 8. Enemies tell no lies. Chapter 9. Clash of the Titans. Issei entered the room and found it to be just as lavish as the rest of the Phoenix Manor. The only difference, a key one at that, was the presence of a woman who looked like an older rival. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me on such short notice, Red Dragon, said Lady Phoenix emissively. It was no trouble at all. I honestly had nothing better to do, said Issei, studying the woman currently sitting in a rich red armchair, incrusted with rubies. Please sit. I've prepared some tea as well, said Lady Phoenix, gesturing to a similarly fancy chair opposite to her, as well as a small table, holding 2 cups of tea in pure silver tray. Issei obliged the older devil's wishes and made his way to the opulent chair before sitting down. I've been told you wanted to speak with me, but not what it would concern, said Issei, a hint of suspicion in his tone. Yes, I've made my intentions for this conversation known to anyone. I would also prefer if you kept the details of this conversation private, between only us, said Phoenix calmly. Why would you want that? If you want to say it can be harmful, I won't lie to those I care about, questioned Issei sternly. Oh no, nothing harmful, although I am glad you would not wish to hurt those close to you, said Lady Phoenix. I believe that for the rest of my life, I will try to, considering how much I disliked, said Issei bitterly. I do extend my apologies for recent falling out you experienced, said Lady Phoenix kindly, with Issei's frown lessening slightly. In any case, what did you want to talk about? Asked Issei, hoping to move the conversation forward. Very well, then. I will be honest, but in advance, forgive me for bringing any up bad memories for you. You see, When you broke Riser's engagement, our house suffered for it, started Lady Phoenix, nothing Issei's expression souring at being reminded of the past. Well, with what happened, it has been tough for the Phoenix. As far as our reputation is concerned, continued Lady Phoenix. I don't see where you're going with this, injected Issei bluntly. Very well, let me hasten to the main point of the conversation then. The Phoenix clan would very much like to form an alliance with you, the Red Dragon. As you can imagine, becoming an angel sent ripples through our society. So a link back to the devils would do much ease to tensions, explained Lady Phoenix. Just why should I? I mean, I have nothing against you, but I don't particularly relish the idea of getting sucked back in with all the devil's business I've left behind, queried Issei. Well, we would require very little of you. In fact, almost nothing at all. Bearing you publicly approving of us, even just a good relationship with some of our members would be sufficient, elaborated Lady Phoenix. So this has to do with Ravel then, asked Issei calmly. Indeed. You see, as you may have guessed, I'm familiar with the events that transpired recently, and to be honest, while I am a devil, I can also see your point of view, and can understand why you would react the way you did, said Lady Phoenix, only for Issei to dryly laugh. You can understand the way I would react? With all due respect, the fact of the matter was, no one did understand me, so please don't act like you do, said Issei satirically. I never claimed to understand how exactly you feel, merely that I could understand being hurt and being unappreciated, of course. I have no idea how you felt personally. I was merely stating that your reaction was understandable, not your emotions at the time, reiterated Lady Phoenix, which caused Issei to give a small hum, but not speak. However, your feelings are not what I wanted to discuss with you today, but rather the feelings of another, said Lady Phoenix calm. Ravel, said Issei simply, getting a nod from Lady Phoenix. You see, she holds herself responsible for what happened, started Lady Phoenix, only for Issei to cut her off. What do you mean? Ravel had nothing to do with this all. She did nothing wrong, said Issei in shock. I have told her as such, but she didn't seem too agreeable with me. I understand you have already told her to hold nothing against her, but if you could assure her on her innocence in the matter, I would greatly appreciate it, continued Lady Phoenix, getting Issei to adopt a thoughtful expression and rub his chin in thought. After a brief lull, Lady Phoenix spoke up again. Would you mind if I speak honestly for a moment here, asked Lady Phoenix, to which Issei quirked an eyebrow, but nodded nevertheless. I hope you have realized by now, but Ravel cares for you. That is more than a friend, said Lady Phoenix, getting a small nod from Issei. That being said, in light of what happened, she feels unworthy of pursuing her romantic interest in you, as she blames herself for what happened to you. To this end, I can only ask that you be honest with her from this point on. If you return her feelings, please do make this obvious, as I'm sure you know now, the sense of unknowing and uncertainty can be crippling. Ravel is young, so she should break things off with her now, gently. She won't be too damaged by it. However, I simply ask that you don't string her along. If you don't return her feelings, requested by Lady Phoenix softly. I see. Riser asked me something similar, and I'll give you the same general reply. I swear I won't hurt Ravel. Ravel is a friend of mine, perhaps something more. I can't say for sure yet, but I do like her. I will try to understand myself and my feelings for her as soon as possible. I don't want to string her along, confessed Issei honestly. That's all a mother could ask for. Thank you, said Lady Phoenix calmly. Issei gave a small nod before grasping a cup of tea and set him down, and then stood up. If we are done here, I would prefer to meet up with Ravel and the others. Not to be rude, but while you maybe a few others are fine with me, I don't like the Devil Society. As a whole, it is too pleased with me right now, said Issei. Of course, please follow me, requested Lady Phoenix, before standing herself up and walked to the door with Issei following. As the duo walked through the extravagant building, Issei walked with a calm detachment, thinking of his most recent conversation. Lady Phoenix, meanwhile, was content to walk in silence. After a few minutes, they reached the door, just as large and just as decorated as one Issei had entered previously. The one would be one of the living rooms in his house, closer to Ravel's room. No doubt she would be there. I'm sure. After her little tour, said Lady Phoenix. Thank you, said Issei calmly, before reaching the handle. Also, one last thing I'd like to say, Ravel is still growing at this point, both mentally and physically. However, even amongst the devils, they say, if you want to know what a daughter will look like when she grows up, look no further than her mother, said Lady Phoenix, before giving a smile, turning on her heel and leaving. Whether voluntary or not, Issei's eyes followed Lady Phoenix's form as she walked away, paying close attention to the sway of her hips before shaking his head. Not exactly what I was expecting from Ravel and Riser's mother, thought Issei in surprise. Issei opened the large door and was greeted in a room that it was equally large and well furnished as the one he had left. Only in this room, Irina, Zenobia, and Ravel were present. Irina and Zenobia were sitting on the three-seated sofa, across from Ravel, on the three-seater of her own, both in luxurious red upholstery. Ravel was sitting in the middle of her sofa, while Irina and Zenobia are sitting on either end of their sofa. "Issei, you're back!" exclaimed Ravel in surprise as she turned to face whoever had opened the door inside and slated Issei. Yeah, shouldn't I be?" asked Issei in confusion. "Oh, no, of course not. I was just surprised. Mother usually takes a while. I wasn't expecting you to be back for at least another hour," said Ravel in embarrassment. "Well, I didn't really want to leave you all alone for too long. So, once we finished the main reason for her wanting to talk to me, I requested to leave and then she brought me here," explained Issei. "Mother brought you herself?" asked Ravel in bafflement. Yeah, said Issei questioningly. Ravel gave a small jump as a magic circle appeared next to her ear, giving a few nods here and there. After a moment, she turned to Issei. "Issei, would you like to have your battle with Cyreorg today?" asked Ravel curiously. Sure, why not?" said Issei, after a moment of thought. "In that case," Issei accepts, "shall we have an hour from now?" asked Ravel, communicating through the magic circle. After another pause, Ravel gave a small nod to herself before the magic circle disappeared. "Well, it seems you will be able to fight Cyreorg very soon. In fact, I'm actually quite surprised at how quickly everything has been organized. It seems that many wanted to see the Red Dragon face off against the strongest youth," said Ravel. "Not to sound pessimistic, but are you sure you can handle Cyreorg, Issei? He is outrageously strong," asked Zenobia, rubbing her stomach in memory of her battle with Cyreorg. "Well, it has been a while since I fought with anyone, but considering the last person I fought with was Kuroka, an outrageously strong devil in her own right, I think I can handle it," said Issei thoughtfully. "You do have the advantage of being an angel as well," added Irina. "Yeah, but I'm thinking about not using my light powers against him," confessed Issei, surprising the others. "Why?" asked Irina in confusion. "Well, it's no secret that most devils aren't too happy with my change, so I was thinking it would be best to keep things under wraps. I still have the boosted gear and senjutsu, though, so I don't think I'll be into inconvenience," explained Issei. Well, politically, that is a wise move. But you're sure you cannot combat Cyreorg otherwise?" asked Ravel carefully. "Of course, I might not have the ability to promote, but with Senjutsu, my body is more resistant, my attacks are stronger, and my magical prowess is higher. It is like I am promoting when using it, so I don't really need it to be difficult for me," said Issei. "Well, no matter what, we will be cheering you on, right?" asked Irina. "Yes, will it be a great battle too?" added Zenobia. "Where will the fight be?" asked Issei. "The same arena where Cyreorg had his most recent battle," said Ravel hesitantly. "I see. So the same place where Zenobia fought him. Fitting, I suppose," said Issei calmly. There was an extended pause at this point, reflecting the awkwardness around avoiding a certain Gremory's name. "Should we make our way there now, then?" asked Issei. "Very well. It will take a minute or two to get there if we transport, but it will take a setup to the circle to carry all of us," said Ravel, before Issei plopped himself down beside her. "Just let me know when it's ready. I might take a small nap now," said Issei tiredly before resting his elbow on the armrest and resting his head on his fist, closing his eyes. Line break. Issei felt a hand caressing his cheek and leant into it slightly. The hand was soft and it made Issei smile. "Oh, does this feel good?" Issei asked a familiar voice, which caused his eyes to snap open. There in front of him was not Rainier, but rather her other form, Yuma Amano. "Isn't it bad enough that you taunt me? Now you do it in two forms," grumbled Issei. Fine, I just thought you would appreciate a more innocent face," said Yuma, before morphing back into Rainier. "You are anything but innocent," grumbled Issei. "Oh, come on, Issei, compare me to all the others and you know I am just as innocent. I have to admit, though, that lady, she's certainly worrieder than I," said Rainier with a smirk. "I'm not stupid. I know what Lady Phoenix was trying to do," said Issei calmly. Rainier simply tapped her index finger on his nose. "Yet you didn't call her on it. Sometimes, Issei, I wonder if you like being pushed around and played with. First there was me, then Rias, now there's another," said Rainier mockingly, causing Issei to growl. I hate you so much, growled Issei. Oh, Issei, your words wooed me, or at least they would if they were true, said Reiner, leaning closer to Issei. I do hate you, insisted Issei, even as Reiner drew closer to him. Oh, Issei, we both know that isn't the truth, said Reiner as she leaned closer and Issei and briefly pressed her against his. Issei quickly pulled back and wiped his lips with his right hand, making Reiner laugh. I know you felt it, Issei. You know the truth. You just can't accept it, said Reiner mockingly before fading away in his head. Line break. Issei grumbled as his eyes opened. That definitely wasn't one of his better dreams, but considering things, it wasn't his worst. Issei gave a big inhale and stretched his arm up, high over his head before standing up. It seemed that he had been left alone to rest, as Irina, Zenobia, and Ravel weren't present. Issei walked to the door and opened it, only to be surprised about who it was on the other side. Riser, what are you doing here? Asked Issei in confusion. To take you to the transport point, where we woke up, of course, said Riser, before walking up with Issei following it. So, how are things with you recently, Riser? Asked Issei. You're attempting to make small talk is amusing, said Riser with a grin. Well, sorry for trying to be polite, grumbled Issei. To answer your question, I've been training. I want to go back to the raiding game sometime soon, so I'm preparing myself and my Parage, said Riser. I never really pictured you for the training type, confessed Issei. I wasn't, considering I have never lost before. I had only rely on my immortality, which was usually enough, laughed Riser. I guess not many devils have access to holy water, commented Issei, before getting Riser to laugh again. No, but I do enjoy it. It turns out, admitted Riser. Holy water? Asked Issei in surprise. No, of course not. Training. There is something about it which makes me feel more alive. I suppose flames aren't meant to sit still. They are meant to rage and grow, said Riser calmly. Well, good for you. Maybe next time you might actually stand a chance of beating me, teased Issei. As I recall, we were at 1 victory each. Don't get cocky, retorted Riser. I guess that's true. We'll have to see a tiebreaker soon then, said Issei thoughtfully. Well, first you can fight Sarah-org. I'll be watching in interest as well, said Riser before stopping in the front door, once again large and lavish. In that case, you're in quite for show, said Issei with a smirk. I'm sure, said Riser before opening the door. Inside were Ravel, Zenobia, and Irina. In the center of the room was large yellow magic circle. Oh good, you're here. It's ready to go, said Ravel. You're coming along for the ride, Riser? Asked Issei. Nah, I'll take myself, said Riser, before disappearing with the use of his own magic circle. Show off, grumbled Issei. The four walked to the center of the circle before Ravel flared her power and circle activated, rising up from the ground and turning them into particles of light. The group materialized in a spacious floor with tables and exercise equipment around. It looks identical, commented Zenobia. Well, it wouldn't be changed even for one-on-one battle. In any case, we will go with the match from stands. The battle will commence in 5 minutes and an announcement will be made. Good luck, said Ravel before the girls left Issei alone. Issei took a deep breath and waited, calming himself down to control his senjutsu. It was probably what helped lower his lust and gave Drake more of a break from his perverted thoughts. Without a calm mind, senjutsu was dangerous, but with a calm mind, senjutsu proved an impressive tool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the special expedition today between the strongest youth, Sarah Bill, and the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hyodo, declared the announcer, causing Issei to open his eyes. It's time, said Issei calmly, as he stood up and walked towards the entrance of the stadium. Issei ignored the announcer as he hyped up the event and explained the specifics of the battle. It didn't matter to Issei too much. Both combatants wouldn't quit. It would keep fighting with any injuries they took. Both knew this fight would only end one way, with the other unconscious. Nothing else would suffice. Issei saw Sarah-org march out, raising his fist into the air. Issei looked up and saw Sarah-org's Parade looking on the cheering their hero. Issei gave a small smile at this before hearing his own name called out and stepped out into the stadium as well. As Issei made his way towards Sarah-org, he was surprised to only hear cheers. It seemed even when becoming an angel, the masses were still on his side. A few quick glances around, though, and Issei noticed more official-looking devils were not happy. Their stony gazes watched Issei carefully, studying his every move. Well, Red Dragon, I guess we will finally find out who's the strongest between us, said Sarah-org with a fearless smile. The strongest, you say, commented Issei. Indeed. This will be the true test of power, continued Sarah-org. In that case, what do you think about a purely physical battle? I must admit, it would be unfair for me to use my light powers against you, and I don't believe it would be wise of me to do so either, persisted Issei. Are you underestimating me, Red Dragon? Asked Sarah-org as his smile tightened. Of course not, but I can't be careless anymore. especially considering where I am. Does it not sound like an even fight? You're Tokyo and my Senjutsu. We both know a little magic in a one-on-one battle. Tactics are not very useful. Why not make this battle of power? Who can trump the other with bodies? No fancy or flashy tricks, explained Issei. I must admit that does sound interesting. I truly did want to fight you at your very best, but I can understand you not wanting to endanger yourself, laughed Cyro-Org. It isn't myself that I worry for, rather what happens to the others to get me, said Issei with a small frown. I see. In that case, I accept your challenge. A battle of pure strength. My blood is boiling already, declared Cyro-Org. Awesome. In that case, shall we begin? Asked Issei. Cyro-Org smirked as a weird mask appeared on all four of his limbs. Shadow lights now out from Cyro-Org's limbs before the marks vanished. A huge explosion burst from Cyro-Org. The wind pressure from the blast formed a crater under him. Cyro-Org's body was now bathed in a white glow. It was Toki. Issei stood in front of Cyro-Org within the crater. I have to say, I'm impressed. If this was before, I would be hard-pressed to match you, even with the boosted gear. However, I've not been sitting idly by for the past weeks, commented Issei, before black helical markings spread across his arms, neck, and face. But I'm not the same person as I once before, finished Issei as the marks seemed to scatter and a reddish glow surrounded him. The ground cratered even more as the audience watched in awe. In particular, though, a certain red-haired observer watched a pang of regret. Issei, you've become so strong without us, thought Rias sadly. Cyro-Org raised an eyebrow in surprise. I must say, I've never seen an energy of this color before, commented Cyro-Org. It comes with being the Red Dragon, and also who trained me. My Senjutsu was rather rough to begin with, but with Drake's help along with my instructor, I was able to fit it in, myself particularly. It not only draws my life force, but it drags as well, along with all the past wielders of the boosted gear. This is why, even if I do not directly use the boosted gear in this state, I may as well be using it anyway, explained Issei. How terrifying. You are an interesting person, Issei Hyodo, said Cyro-Org with a wide smile. As you are. As are you, but enough talk. Now, it's time for us to speak with our fists, said Issei, raising his right hand in front of him, red and black energy dancing around it. I wouldn't have had it any other way, said Cyro-Org before launched their fist at each other. The crowd instantly flished as a massive explosion of light behind them are all momentarily. When the light cleared and everyone regained their vision, the crowd looked on in shock. Behind Issei's right and Cyro-Org's left were deep trenches behind them. The clashes of fists had shot through the combatants and tore up the ground. Issei looked at his fist in surprise for a moment, bringing it back to his face before smirking. Cyro-Org too gave a smirk before it both disappeared in a flash of light. The stadium was silent, as no one could see or hear anything. Before a thunderous echo reverberated through the arena, Issei had launched an elbow at Cyro-Org's head with his right arm while Cyro-Org had blocked it with his both palms. Cyro-Org swung into action, bringing his left fist into an uppercut aimed it directly at Issei's solar plexus, only for Issei to harshly swing his right arm down and block the attack with his forearm, causing a massive explosion of energy on impact. The crowd gaped at the power behind each attack before cheering loudly. The two disappeared once again, before the other thunderous explosion was heard. Cyro-Org and Issei both grappled each other and pushing against each other. It was perfect stalemate. Despite Cyro-Org's greater size, the two disappeared again, only to reappear with light right knees slammed against each other in the brief moment. You could notice a smirk of amusement from both of them before they disappeared again. Numerous explosions continued to ring out throughout the stadium, showing Issei and Cyro-Org momentarily for a moment, clashing before disappearing again. The crowd roared in excitement, despite only seeing occasional flashes of the battle. After a few minutes of intense clashes, the duo started to slow down and stop 2 meters away from each other, both appearing ruffled and slightly out of breath, but still largely uninjured. I must say, Cyro-Org, this is one hell of a fight. I've never faced someone like you before, someone who throws himself in the battle this way, commented Issei. I agree. It seems the two of us are quite alike, throwing our bodies into a fight with reckless abandon, agreed Cyro-Org with a grin. However, now the true test of speed out of the way, I think it's time to move on to the main event, said Issei, as his aura swelled up around him, causing the wind to blow from his position, pushing the dust away from him. I can't wait, said Cyro-Org, as his power also flared, meeting Issei in the middle, causing a loud fashion reverberate from a power alone. Line break. Wow, Issei is so strong, commented Irina in awe, watching the two release their energy. Yes, even when I fought Cyro, his power was tremendous, but right now I can feel it is even higher. I think he must have been training for this fight with Issei intensely. Both before our battle and immediately following it, added Zenobia. I never knew Issei was this strong though, muddled Ravel in surprise. Elsewhere, two glasses-clad women were also watching the fight in interest. He is a completely different person than before, commented Sona, watching a glazing gaze. Not only that, he has yet to use his sacred gear. This amount of power is terrifying. Both his and Cyro, added Tsubaki, Sona's queen. Although I'm sure he didn't plan this, but it will no doubt settle down mania for the higher-ups, who were disgruntled with the recent events. To be this strong without even using his sacred gear, a Longinus at that, I don't think anyone would want to anger him, added Sona, before refocusing on the fight. Scene break. Well, Cyro, since neither of us is holding back anymore, let me say this in advance. This was a great fight, and I look forward to a time when we could both fight completely unrestrained, said Issei with a smirk. Ha! I hope I can have some time to train before then. You truly surpassed my expectations. Even without using your power of light and balance breaker, you are almost a match for my full power. It is embarrassing, but also exciting. Keep getting stronger after this, and I will do the same, said Cyro before his power intensified again, pushing Issei's away and pushing him back slightly. Issei crossed his arms over his head as Cyro slammed an axe down on them. Issei quickly opened his hands and grabbed onto Cyro's right leg and swung backwards, slamming Cyro into the ground. Cyro placed his hands down in front of him, cushioning the blow. It is a modified push-up position before twisting his body, throwing it to Issei's side. Issei flipped midair, slamming his hand on the ground to slow his movement, only to find Cyro charging at him with a right fist. Issei quickly charged to meet him, and at the last moment gave the right palm thrust to Cyro inner elbow, numbing it temporarily, before twisting his body and launching his left elbow into Cyro's gut, stunning him. Cyro bent over slightly, looming over Issei's left shoulder, only for Issei to grab the back of Cyro's head in between his hands and run forward, before falling to the ground, slamming Cyro's head against the ground, Issei's back hitting it as well. Issei quickly flipped over Cyro and grabbed him around the waist, before giving a mighty heave and suplexed the larger fighter over his head, slamming him his head first into the ground. Issei didn't let go after his maneuver, and picked Cyro up again, quickly turned around before hefting Cyro up and harshly down into another suplex. Cyro quickly brought up his legs and slammed them into Issei's chest, breaking his hold, before roughly getting to his feet, blood trickling down his forehead from a cut within his hairline. Cyro charged Issei again, this time with a palm thrust of his own, and slammed Issei into Issei's right shoulder, spinning him, before launching a sidekick into a small of Issei's back, propelling him towards the stadium wall. Issei slammed into a wall harshly, with a crunch causing quite a few to cringe, at what sounded like bones breaking. Issei pulled out himself out of the wall, only for Cyro to suddenly appear behind him and push his face back into the wall. The wall suddenly vibrated as Issei gave a deep growl and launched his right elbow back, nailing Cyro in his ribs before spinning and launching in a roundhouse kick, which sent Cyro into the stadium wall to Issei's left. Issei took a brief reprieve to crack his nose back into place, grimacing as he did so, before spitting out a wad of blood from when he had bit his cheek, when Cyro slammed him into the wall the second time. Cyro clambered out of the wall as well, spitting out a wad of blood as he moved his jaw around carefully. Issei grinned before rushing Cyro again and tackled him into the wall. Issei somersaulted back, avoiding Cyro's downward punch at his back before launching a push kick into Cyro's chest, slamming him back into the wall and digging further into the construction. Cyro then grabbed Issei's ankle and twisted. Issei turned with motion to avoid having his ankle shattered, but he couldn't protect himself from Cyro's elbow slamming into his knee, causing him to cry out in pain as the joint barely held on. Under the immense power, placing his hands on the ground, Issei twisted his legs hoping for Cyro, but he released Issei's leg and slammed it into Issei's gut, cratering the ground under him and causing a spittle of blood to fly from Issei's mouth. Issei recovered quickly and grabbed Cyro's arm before throwing him over his legs back towards the center of the stadium. Issei pushed as much as energy into his legs as they could handle and charged after Cyro. As Cyro's body flew from out the air, Issei was upon him and launched numerous punches along his torso before disappearing once again and reappearing in front of him of where Cyro was flying. Issei crouched down and waited for Cyro to reach him before launching a back kick into Cyro's back, launching him into the air. Cyro groaned at a recent onslaught and had experience before widening his eyes slightly as Issei had appeared above him. "Take this!" shouted Issei before slamming a double axe handle right into Cyberorg's gut, sending him flying to the ground. The crowd gaped at the massive explosion that occurred. When Cyberorg impacted with the ground, the walls themselves were already cracked and would need repairs after the fight. The ground was created in numerous places, and many wondered if the stadium would even last the match. Issei slowly fell into the ground, creating a small crater on impact when he landed and dropping him down to one knee. Breathing heavily, blood was still running down his nose and out of his mouth. Issei ripped off his school blazer, wondering why he hadn't unclothed himself in something more appropriate for fighting. As he ripped off his white, long-sleeved dress shirt, leaving his clad in red t-shirt showing his muscles and also quite a few welts on his arms from blocking Cyberorg's hits, as well as the impact of launching his own attacks. His pants were also frayed, revealing his ankles and lower parts of his shins. Cyberorg groaned as he stood up from the crater, taking a full 10 seconds to get back to a vertical base. His white vest was in tatters after the onslaught, and had taken his black bodysuit was torn in many places, revealing fresh blood dripping from his arms. I must say, this has been one of the most enjoyable, almost painful fights I've ever experienced. You are truly a worthy opponent, so much so that I no longer feel worthy to witness your power. If I'm losing this badly when you're handicapped, said Cyberorg, panting as he did so. Well, you're not making it easy for me either, chuckled Issei weakly. I'm not sure how much longer my body will hold together, so what if you say one last attack to finish this, proposed Cyberorg. Sure, why not, agreed Issei with a grin. The crowd had been cheering wildly for the past 10 minutes, but neither Issei nor Cyberorg could hear them anymore. They were too immersed in their battle to care. Issei and Cyberorg both gathered energy into their right fist, their auras concentrating solely to their fist. Leaving the rest of their bodies, fatigue was setting in for both, and just doing this was a task. But do it they did. Issei stood his feet and Cyberorg strengthened his stance. The two faced off, both grimacingly fearless before burst at each other. The two reared their fists back and swung, causing an explosion of energy and blinding everyone temporarily. As the spots dancing and everyone's vision started to fade, they saw Issei with his right fist lodged into Cyberorg's gut, a solid uppercut to the solar plex, doubling him over slightly. Cyberorg had launched a wicket across, right into Issei's jaw, tightening his head to the side. There was a moment of silence, as the crowd waited with bated breath to see who would fall. Issei dropped to his right knee, stopping himself from meeting the ground with his left fist. The crowd was just about to cheer for Cyberorg's victory, when the devil wobbled unsteadily on his feet and fell right onto Issei's shoulder. You're amazing, Cyberorg. You were barely holding on at the end there. You took every hit, weren't even conscious anymore, but you still managed to land your blow on me. You are truly a worthy opponent as well, muttered Issei. Issei weakly raised himself and Cyberorg to their feet before raising his left fist into the sky in victory. The crowd's roar was defeating, eardrum shattering. A fight such as this was truly worthy of praise, and the spectators showed it. Issei struggled to carry Cyberorg away before Cyberorg's queen, a beautiful blonde-haired girl, came and took him from Issei, despite the difference in size between the two. Issei breathed a sigh of relief and turned towards his waiting room. He took one step before his eyes closed and fell forward, unconscious. And that is the end of Chapter 9, Clash of the Titans. Chapter 10, It's All in Your Head. Issei gave a small groan as he returned to consciousness. It took a moment for Issei to last remember what happened. After a minute, he realized he had passed out after his fight with Cyberorg and fallen flat on his face. Yeah, that must have hurt, commented a voice, which made Issei freeze. Looking to his left, Issei saw milky white skin, covered in labyrinth leather attire. As his gaze traveled upwards, he saw two distinct black wings. Wings of a fallen angel. Hesitantly, Issei raised his head and rest of the way and gazed at the visage of a person standing to his right. He could never mistake those violet eyes, coupled with automatically angelic face and long black hair. Hi, Issei. Missed me? Asked Rainier in amusement. Issei merely stared at Rainier with a scrutinizing gaze, before weakly raising his right hand to his face and pinching his cheek as hard as he could. Oh, don't be like that. It's not a dream. I'm here with you, Issei, cooed Rainier, leaning closer to Issei. Issei kept his gaze on Rainier, even as she walked closer to him. If this was a dream, Issei was ready to wake up right now. As he stood, he exhausted. Even someone like Rainier, weak as she was, would have a reasonable chance of killing him. Issei weakly tried to sit up, away from the smiling visage that was approaching him, only to hear someone open the door to his room, causing both him and Rainier to look at it. Once the door was open, Ravel was revealed, looking for somewhat tired, but she perked up as soon as she seen Issei. "Issei, you're awake!" exclaimed Ravel in joy. Issei couldn't return her enthusiasm as she glanced to Rainier, who Ravel seemed completely oblivious of. "I'm awake?" asked Issei slowly. "Of course you are," said Ravel as she approached Issei from his left side, opposite Rainier. "Your match was particular, however. After the Star Org was carried away by the Queen, you passed out and I brought you back here," explained Ravel. It was at this point that Issei took in his surroundings, noticing that for a hospital or a medical bay, the area was rather decorative. Lots of precious metals and stones dotted in the room, even his sheets were silk. Issei glanced over to Rainier again before turning back to Ravel. "How long have I been out for?" asked Issei. "Almost a full 12 hours, said Ravel with a hint of worry in her tone. Issei's eyes widened in surprise. "What about Cyro Org?" asked Issei. "He woke up about an hour ago. It is possible you need longer to recover because he landed an attack on your head," answered Ravel. "I see," said Issei thoughtfully. "I'm surprised, though, Issei. I mean, what's the difference between her and that red-haired bitch? Both are pure devils. Both split princesses. Both have dominating families. Really, what's the difference? Is it the blonde hair? Maybe you like younger girls. I guess you must be a masochist. Considering that this will probably go the same way," said Rainier, finishing with a shrug. "If you are feeling better, you can get up and walk around a bit," said Ravel softly. Issei grunted before trying to get up. Ravel quickly went to Issei's side to help him sit up, supporting his shoulder and holding his hand. Issei stood up, with Ravel standing very close to him before cracking his neck, and he left a rolling on his right shoulder. "I'm okay," said Issei to Ravel, who gave a smile. "Whatever. It isn't like I've been watching you over all this time," muttered Ravel with a small blush on her cheeks. Issei chuckled and patted Ravel on her hair, causing her to blush intensify. That must be it. You like little girls, don't you?" quipped Rainier. Issei firmly ignored her and made for the door, with Ravel quickly walking in front of him and opening the door herself. When Issei stepped into the hallway, his eyes widened when he saw Rainier resting against the wall to his right. Issei quickly looked back, and she was no longer in the room they had just left. "Is something wrong, Issei? Did you forget something?" asked Ravel in concern. "No, I'm fine," said Issei, giving Ravel a small smile. As the duo walked, Issei couldn't help but notice that Rainier was walking right next to him. "I mean, a girl with this much money. Why would she want someone like you? Obviously for your status, but really, it isn't like you have much else to offer," said Rainier with a fuck status. Ravel led Issei back to the room where he had taken his nap in, before going to the same and saw Irina and Zenobia sitting there as they stood before. "Issei, we were so worried about you," exclaimed Irina with a nervous expression. "Yes, that was an excellent fight as well," added Zenobia. "Oh look, two traitors. Well, I suppose that really isn't true, since they were never on your side to begin with. Quite frankly, I'm surprised you believed them. It's laughable," said Rainier in amusement. "I'm fine," said Issei reassuringly. "Fine? That's funny. If you had jokes like me on that date, I might have not killed you," laughed Rainier. "Anyway, with that out of the way, I was thinking it might be a good idea to go home and rest," said Issei. "Yes, that would be the smart thing to do. I'll get a magic circle ready for you," said Ravel, before leaving Issei alone with Irina and Zenobia. "To think you honestly thought of these two cared for you. Then again, you thought I cared for you as well. So clearly you're bad grudge of people's intentions. I mean, I could have seen that red-haired skank using you a mile away. Say what you will about me, but when I turned on you, I was upfront about it. She just kept manipulating you behind her smile. I'm almost envious of how manipulative she is," said Rainier, becoming wistful towards the end. "How are you feeling, Issei?" asked Irina worriedly. "I told you, I'm fine, really," said Issei with a small laugh. Rainier laughed along with Issei, but for different reasons. "Okay, if you're sure," said Irina reluctantly. "How did you become so strong, Issei? You didn't even use your boosted gear, yet you beat Cyro Org, and he is no pushover." "I know," questioned Zenobia, lightly brushing her stomach in her memory. "Ah, betrayal is a beautiful thing, isn't it? Nothing serves to push someone more. Am I right, Issei?" quipped Rainier playfully. "Just training, I suppose. Senjutsu is really powerful, especially for brute strength," said Issei. "Of course she wants to know. After all, if she can use you to get stronger, why wouldn't she stick around?" questioned Rainier. "It's ready," said Ravel as she re-entered the room and gestured for them to follow her. "I have to say, though, compared to that red whore, this one is much nicer house," commented Rainier, looking at the roof. Issei looked at Rainier, who quickly matched his gaze. "What? You know it's true. They might have had dozens of butlers and maids, but they had nowhere near this much gold, or anywhere close to the number of jewels I've seen in this place," said Rainier. As the four walked over to the circle, Rainier stood off to the side. "See you at home, Issei," giggled Rainier, blowing a kiss to Issei. Issei pursed his lips as his form was vaporized before reappearing in his living room. Issei sighed for a moment before a figure walked out of his bathroom. "Welcome home, Issei. I missed you," teased Rainier, putting a fox and sad expression and placing her index finger on his lips. "Girls, sorry if this is abrupt, but I think I'm going to take a nap. I'm still pretty tired after everything," said Issei weakly, giving a small smile. "Of course. It would be the best for you to rush as much as possible so you can recover quickly," said Ravel, with the two nodding. "Thanks. I'll see you later," said Issei, walking to his bedroom. "Oh, is this the way that you're saying you're going to get down and dirty?" "My, Issei, I never expected you to go straight from a grueling battle into that of a snack," said Rainier in his surprise before smirking. Issei ignored the fallen angel, but made sure to close his bedroom door. Not like it helped, since she was lying down on the bed. "Come on, Issei, what's the expression?" "Oh, right. Paint me like one of your French girls," purred Rainier. Issei walked to the bed and slid next to Rainier, before turning his back to her. "Oh, playing hard to get, are we? That's fine. I have plenty of time. I'm not going anywhere after all. Good night, Issei," said Rainier sweetly, blowing a kiss to Issei before laughing. Scene break. Issei awoke the next day, feeling two mounds pressing against his back. Issei stiffened before feeling two tails wrapped around his legs. "Oh, this one is hilarious, Issei. I guess you do like bad girls, although you could barely touch me even after I skewered you," said Rainier, standing in front of Issei leaning against the door. Rainier walked over to Issei, looming close to his face. "I'm sure you wanted me to be the one to take your virginity, though, didn't you? Don't deny it. I know the truth, after all," said Rainier with a smirk. Issei tried to get up, only to find Kuroka had also wrapped her arms around his midsection. "I bet you think she is holding you like that because she cares about you. Sorry, Issei, but she only wants your kids. You yourself are a sperm donor to her. It is likely she only wanted you after all. She did ask the White Dragon Emperor as well. You just happened to be the one to agree to be the breeding stock." "So sad. At least I pretended to actually care for you before taking what I wanted," said Rainier sadly. After a bit of struggling, Issei managed to find himself free from Kuroka's embrace, and finally decided to change his clothes. However, given his odor, he decided to shower first. As Issei grabbed his robe and carried it to the shower, he sighed upon opening the door and seeing Rainier there waiting for him. "What? You saw me naked? It's only fair I get to see you naked," said Rainier calmly. Issei paused for a full minute before sighing and stripping out of his damaged clothes. "Well, it's good to see you've buffed up since a little then. You were pretty scrawny after all. No wonder you couldn't get a girl," commented Rainier. Issei gave a small huff before undressing completely and entering the shower. The shower wasn't particularly large, but it could probably fit 3 people comfortably. Obviously, Issei hadn't tested that to be sure, though. Grabbing his shampoo and laving his hair, Issei scrubbed for a half minute. Before closing his eyes and washing off the studs, opening his eyes again, Issei saw Rainier standing in front of him. Only now, she was naked. "Want me to wash your back for you, Issei? I know you want me to," purred Rainier. Issei turned around as he grabbed the soap and started to spread soap across his arms and upper body. "Oh, I see how it is. You'd rather I wash something else, wouldn't you, Issei?" teased Rainier from behind Issei, who reluctantly ignored her. "It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm a fallen angel after all. Seduction is our greatest talent," quipped Rainier. Issei ignored Rainier, but he finished up as quickly as he could. After dressing in his undergarments, Issei quickly realized that even though he had been out for a while, it was still the weekend. Sunday to be precise. Deciding to trip to heaven may help, Issei grabbed a plan. Red short-sleeved shirt and black jeans, dressed quickly, then made his way to the living room. Issei concentrated, causing his halo to appear above his head. Giving a small chant, a white line split down the middle of his apartment in front of him, before manifesting into a large door, which slowly opens, spewing bright light. Issei walked through, before finding himself outside a pair of large gates, surrounded by marble constructions. Calmly, Issei walked through the gates, emerging into a white fluffy area, which extended as far as the eye could see before heading to the elevator. As he made his way through, he greeted everyone who greeted him in return. While the devils may have been unhappy at what happened, many in heaven were delighted. While the fallen angels at one point had the white dragon and the devils had the red dragon, heaven was left without a dragon. This isn't to say they were at a disadvantage. Dulio was a true force to be reckoned with, but having a dragon of their own eased their souls. As the elevator reached the 6th floor, Issei made his way to where he knew the Seraphs would be. It was rare for all of them to be present today, was no exception, but both Michael and Gabriel were present, and all of the people, Dulio was there as well. "Ah, hello, Issei. I trust you have been well," greeted Michael once he noticed Issei. "Yes, things have been going well recently," replied Issei with a smile. "Wow, I've never seen this like this to level before. Funny to think that a shameless pervert like you actually managed to get up here," said Rainier, walking past Issei and looking around in awe. "Well, for the most part," amended Issei, his smiling, shrinking slightly. "Is something wrong, Issei? You know I'm always here to listen to anything you have to discuss," said Gabriel pleasantly. "Seriously, her boobs are huge, even bigger than mine. Much to I hate to admit it, how did someone like you get rescued by someone like her?" commented Rainier in shock. "I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you sometime soon, but I came today in hopes that you may need of me. I've been growing somewhat restless and I'm afraid," confessed Issei nervously. I don't mind if he comes along with me. It would be nice to have some company," said Dulio, giving his input. "I see. In that case, Issei, there have been a few reports recently of something rather disturbing, a rather unnatural energy source near Romania. It is close to the domain of the vampires, but not actually within the territory itself. It had gotten our attention, as the feeling is similar to the output of a Longinus. We have no idea if it's controlled or not, nor who may be coming from. Ideally, you should scout the area information, but if conflict is unavoidable, do try not to let it escalate and return as quickly as possible. We have been on good terms with the vampires and are investigating so close to their area. It is bound to cause tension," explained Michael. "No worries. If we need to remain undetected, I'll be able to cloak both Dulio and myself with Ki," said Issei. "In that case, you can leave whenever you are ready," said Michael calmly. "All right, let's do this, Dulio," cheered Issei. "You're rather enthusiastic," commented Dulio in amusement. "What can I say? I've had a lot on my mind that sounds just the thing. To help me distract from my current thoughts," said Issei. "Oh, you can try, but we both know I'm going to be on your mind, whether you like it or not," teased Rainier, leaning over Issei's right shoulder, whispering into his ear. Scene break. Issei and Dulio were walking through a dark, slightly foggy mountain terrain. There were numerous mountains in the distance to go off west. A civilization could be made out, a rather large town from appearances, but in fact the location of the vampires, the two jokers, were a good distance away though, appearing only as tiny as specks in the distance to anyone who would try to spot them, enhanced vision or not. "What are you eating?" Dulio asked Issei, noticing Dulio was eating a rounded cylindrical sandwich. I believe this is known as a kebab," replied Dulio, taking another bite. "And exactly where did you get it from?" asked Issei in surprise. "I always carry a few foods with me. It helps me longer my journeys more interesting," replied Dulio. Issei blinked in confusion, before giving a slight shake of his head and ignoring it. Dulio and food had an interesting relationship, one of that was best to not be understood. Issei had found out that Dulio was a food amphibian, but out of gluttony, he brought back any new exciting foods he found in the children's various orphanages, hoping to give them a taste of exotic cuisine and imbue their spirits. Issei had also heard that upon hearing about a new food, Dulio would become unreachable. "I just wondered what could be so important to rile up the higher-ups," muttered Issei. "Funny, that rhymed. If anything, though, I would think it would be a Longinus of some sort," said Dulio calmly, taking another bite. "Ugh, not another one. Why do I always happen to run into overpowered people?" lamented Issei. "That's funny, considering you are the poster boy for overpowered. Light powers, senjutsu, and the ability to boost your abilities indefinitely isn't exactly mundane," retorted Dulio cheerfully. "In complete control over the elements is nothing, right?" quipped Issei. "Well, I'd say that you still are the more powerful one in brute strength. I may be more versatile, but you have the hold capacity for devastating singular attacks," said Dulio pleasantly, as he finished his snack. "Hi, Kettle, I'm Pot," scoffed Issei, getting a smile from Dulio. "So, what has been troubling you lately, Issei?" asked Dulio calmly. "Me? Troubling you? How rude. I thought it was your girlfriend," said Rainier from beside Issei. "Just some stuff in my past," said Issei with a small grumble. You know, Issei, living in the past is dangerous. If we continue to do that, our fraction might not even exist anymore. Neither of us would be angels right now, said Dulia happily. Yeah, I'd be dead soon too, snorted Issei. Come on now, Issei. Gabriel wouldn't want you to act like this, especially after how much you two bonded, said Dulia with a sad smile. I guess, said Issei quietly. The two continued walking before feeling a spike of energy. That felt rather powerful, wouldn't you say? Asked Dulio. Yeah, and I felt an almost dragon-like presence, but it felt warped, commented Issei. Issei paused for a moment and expanded his senses before feeling a very strong power. I'm cloaking us now. Whatever the thing is, it is best we avoid it. A battle would bring way too much attention to us, said Issei, before expanding his key cloak over Dulio and himself. The duo followed the source of power, with Issei leading the way. As they climbed over a moderately sized hill, they saw a deep basin, with an eerie purple glow coming from it. I'm guessing that is what we were looking for, muttered Issei. Dulio looked over the area carefully, before stretching his awareness to the wind. That is definitely a Longinus, commented Dulio seriously, before the two heard a low rumble, followed by the sound of heavy wing beats. Quick, get down, exclaimed Issei, pulling Dulio to the ground. It was just barely quick enough as a dark green western dragon shot into the sky after that, flying away into the direction opposite the nearby vampire settlement. I guess your search is over then, since that was Grendel, spoke Drake, manifesting on Issei's hand. What do you mean? Why is the search over? Asked Issei. I myself fought with Grendel long ago. That being said, after I was sealed into this gear, I've been listening out for the other dragons as well, not just Albion, stated Drake. Your point being? Asked Issei. Grendel was slain by Beowulf, said Drake simply. I see. That does indeed end our search, since the only one sacred gear could possibly be behind this. To think, the Holy Grail would be here of all places, said Dulio seriously. We better head back then, said Issei, to which Dulio nodded. Scene break. The Holy Grail, you say? That is troubling, said Michael, as a frown crossed his gentle features. Do you know who might be behind it? Asked Issei curiously. No, nothing definite, but given how quiet the Chaos Brigade has been lately, there's a possibility they may be behind it. Additionally, given the location, it may also be the vampires, said Michael thoughtfully. Dulio and Issei exchanged slightly worried looks before Michael spoke again. In any case, well done in your successful mission. I suppose the others and I should deliberate on how to respond to this in allies with other factions as well. You are both free for now, said Michael, causing Dulio to give a smile. Splendid. I heard of a particularly ancient cuisine in France, so I might pop by for a visit, said Dulio cheerfully, before giving a small bow and heading off. Issei couldn't help but chuckle at this counterpart. Dulio was truly unique in how positive he could be at all times. Shame you're nothing like him. I mean, you weren't even religious when you became an angel, and you were full of lust. I suppose being the Red Dragon Emperor will keep saving you time and time again, said Renaer in disappointment. Gabriel, if your offer is still on the table, can we go for that chat? Asked Issei. Gabriel smiled beautifully. Even seeing Renaer in the corner of his eye, Issei couldn't help but smile as well. Gabriel's presence had become somewhat of a lifeline for him, and when she was happy, so was he. Of course. Come, we can walk past Eden, said Gabriel happily. Michael waved the two off. As they headed for the elevator ride was short, but Gabriel was humming cheerfully and brought a smile to Issei's face once again. As the two exited the lift, Issei was astounded at what was in front of him. No matter how many times they came by, Issei always held his breath a little upon seeing the majestic beauty which was the Garden of Eden. A horticulturalist would probably give their soul just to see this splendid sight. Numerous plants, exotic and common decorative the entire area. Hues of green related seamlessly with light blue shifting to purple and dark reds. Bright flowers of yellow, orange, and pink were scattered throughout the much larger trees that reached upwards. Gabriel followed a well-traveled path, leading Issei to her favorite location and the common place for their conversations. A gigantic trunk leading up into the numerous strong branches and abundant large foliage. The surrogate tree had been a common fixture in all of their conversations, and just looking at it calmed Issei. So tell me, Issei, what is troubling you? Asked Gabriel kindly as she fell down onto the soft grass. Issei mirrored Gabriel and knelt down as well, taking a moment to gaze at the large tree next to them. I've been having troubling visions and unpleasant memories recently. It started with only simple phases that caused me to discomfort. but has progressed to me having conversations with my fears and even seeing appropriations, said Issei uncomfortably. I see. I know it may be hard for you, Issei, but the more honest you are with me, the more I can help you, said Gabriel patiently, which caused Issei to sigh. I've been seeing and hearing Rainier again, confessed Issei tiredly, feeling all his strength drained from him at this simple admission. Gabriel's beautiful smile momentarily shrunk before returning to normal. If it isn't too much for you, I would like to hear more, requested Gabriel kindly. Well, before it was just the same line she said to me before she killed me. But just recently, I started having conversations with her in my dreams. After yesterday, I've started seeing her form in my mind, speaking and commenting on everything around me. Even right now, I can see her from standing next to you, looking at me with a mocking smile, said Issei orally. Gabriel frowned at this, looking to her sides briefly, and indeed did not see anyone. I see, commented Gabriel. See. Now she will write you off as a lunatic and throw you away like the others, commented Rainier happily, which caused her to frown at what Gabriel did next. Gabriel had stood up and moved over to Issei, knelt beside him, and brought his head into the space between her bosom and her right shoulder, with her left hand resting his head gently against her, as her right hand gently stroked the back of his head. Issei, no matter what, Rainier is a part of you. As unfortunate as it may be, it is the truth, stated Gabriel, causing Issei to sigh softly. However, she doesn't define you. You are a special person, Issei, continued Gabriel. Yeah, special because of your gauntlet, quipped Rainier, with a smirk which was wiped off her face when Gabriel continued. It has nothing to do with the host of Drake, but rather because of your heart. Even before, when your mind was awash with lust, you were still caring and kind. You fought to protect your friends solely because you felt it was the right thing to do, not out of the sense of duty, said Gabriel calmly, pulling Issei's head off her and looking at him in the eyes. Yeah, look at how that worked out for you, scoffed Rainier. I know that things did not turn out as you would have wished, and I am deeply sorry for what you had to endure. But you did endure it, and survived, because you are strong, finished Gabriel, smiling at Issei brightly. I only survived because you reincarnated me, muttered Issei weakly. That may be the case, but not everyone can be turned into an angel, Issei. There are 3 ways, as I'm sure you know. The first is through devout worship. The second, through strong faith. And the third, do you remember, Issei? Asked Gabriel calmly. To have a kind heart, said Issei with a smile, causing Rainier to grunt. Exactly. You are the one who survived. You are the one who persisted, and you are the one who held strong, Issei. As I have said before, no matter what happens, you will always have my love. It is yours to have, and I will never take it from you. Remember, Issei, though you have suffered much and gained little, I will never ask for more than you can give, and you will have my love forever. Remember those words, Issei. Engrave them in your heart, no matter what happens, no matter what trials and tribulations you may face, you will always have me on your side. That is my assurance to you. While Rainier may be part of you, remember also that I am too. Even if she troubles your heart and mine with doubts, remember that I will be here for you always, said Gabriel kindly. The sincerity in Gabriel's words warmed Issei's heart. True, Rainier was still there, a little off to the side and sprouting a grimace as she gagged, but Issei couldn't care less. Thanks, Gabriel. That really helped a lot, said Issei softly. Gabriel smiled and kissed Issei on the crown of his forehead. Of course, Issei. You have no need to worry. I will be with you forever, throughout it all. You can always come to me if your heart is heavy, said Gabriel with a smile. Issei wasn't quite sure what came over him at the moment, and it would still be on his mind for weeks to come, but without warning, Issei leaned forward and kissed Gabriel herself right on her lips. Gabriel was surprised at the action, even at the appropriation of Rainier looked at gobsmacked. Issei quickly retracted his head with a huge blush on his face. Forgive me, Gabriel. I'm not sure what came over me, stuttered Issei nervously, only for Gabriel to laugh softly. It is fine, Issei. I told you no matter what, you have my love. Angels are not beings without emotions. If we were, the fawn would have never existed, said Gabriel reassuringly. Issei risked a quick glance to Gabriel upon seeing her smile relax slightly. I see, said Issei, calming down slightly. Issei, if you love me in such a manner, do not be embarrassed. When God created both Adam and Eve in this very garden, it is always a natural way of things for a man to love a woman and a woman to love a man. I see no reason why we could not pursue the same intimate relationship. As I know your heart is pure, and you know mine, said Gabriel softly. Are you sure? Asked Issei in surprise. Of course. You have suffered much and gain little. But if being with me eases your soul, I would be happy to explore our feelings together, answered Gabriel happily. Issei smiled. Issei simply smiled. I would like that, said Issei happily. Damn, bro. Sad. Scene break. Gabriel, is there something you're wishing to tell me? Asked Michael once Gabriel returned without Issei. Issei has been experiencing uncomfortable recollections of his past, explained Gabriel. I see, said Michael solemnly. I believe I was able to calm his heart, so much so that he officially expressed his interest in pursuing a romantic relationship with me, said Gabriel. I see, said Michael in surprise, his eyes widening slightly. Yes, I could tell after weeks of interacting with me he had begun to develop feelings, but I didn't expect them to grow to this level, commented Gabriel thoughtfully. What are your feelings on the matter? Asked Michael curiously. I can comfortably say that I love Issei, as I love everyone. Whether it is something more than that, I am unsure, but I am willing to attempt it. We are beings of love, after all, said Gabriel. I see. I wish you the best, then. It is rare for angels to interact in such a manner. As if in love, I'm sure the outcome will be good, optimistically. Scene break. Issei, meanwhile, was still in shock of what he had done. I kissed Gabriel, thought Issei in shock. What the hell? How can you kiss another person with me standing right there? Shouted Rainier indignantly. I kissed Gabriel. I really did, continued Issei, completely ignoring Rainier. Hey, pay attention to me, snapped Rainier, clicking her fingers in front of Issei as he sat down on his couch, unmoving. I actually kissed Gabriel. Me, muttered Issei aloud. There was a loud thud outside Issei's door before someone quickly entered his house and grabbed him by the collar. What? What did you say? Asked Azazel, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. I kissed Gabriel, muttered Issei, unaware of Azazel completely. Azazel looked at Issei in shock for a minute before engulfing him in a hug. Issei, I hereby declare you are a true inheritor of my will, my son. I'm so proud of you, cried Azazel tearfully. Rainier just sighed in the background. Great. That is the only person who can actually hear me is a freaking vegetable, grumbled Rainier sourly. And that's the end of Chapter 10. It's all in your head. Chapter 11. The end is nigh. It had taken Issei the rest of the day to finally regain himself, and upon doing so, he was surprised to see a frame of diamonds on his table, featuring both him and Azazel. The only problem was Issei had no recollection of ever taking a photo. I think I missed something, thought Issei. You kissed Gabriel, which turned Azazel into a massive manifestation of pride. He also named you his successor, inheritor of his will. One true son and idol from the point on, said Drake. Wait, what? Asked Issei in shock. I must say, though, I never expected to do something so daring. Perhaps as your former embodiment of lust, but not now. I have missed something for this to get past me, commented Drake. Issei blinked before seeing a hand wave in front of his face, only to see an annoying visage of Rainier. Finally, do you have any idea how long I've been trying to get you to snap out of it? Sheesh. Just because she is a seraph doesn't mean you need to shut down completely. She's just another girl after all. How is she any different from the others? Shouted Rainier in irritation. Issei smiled at this, not because Gabriel was just another girl, but because Rainier was irritated. You know, I might just like seeing a jealous Rainier everywhere I go, thought Issei. Partner, do you realize she is a manifestation of your mind? Questioned Drake. Didn't stop her from making me feel insecure, retorted Issei. You know I can hear both of you. You both suck, huffed Rainier. Your fragile mental stability aside, partner, you should probably go to bed, since it is midnight and now you have school tomorrow, said Drake. Issei mentally nodded before making his way to his bedroom, only to see a massive photo of a grinning Azazel giving him the thumbs up hanging on his wall. Issei's eyes twitched at the sight, before he gave a defeated sign. You know, what nothing can bring me down right now. Yawn. Well, emotionally I need a nap though, muttered Issei, before plopping himself onto his bed pulling the covers over himself. Scene break the next morning. The morning came quickly for Issei and he woke up alone for a change. Come on, get up already, whined Rainier unhappily. Well, almost alone. Issei got out of bed without much fanfare. Before grabbing another version of his school uniform, it was a good thing he had a spare, as the other pair was nothing more than shredded and tattered material now. Quickly dressing, Issei headed off to school, ignoring the feature that tried to gain his attention. Issei made his way to his seat and sat there, ruminating on what he had done. I hope I didn't mess things up. I mean, maybe Gabriel was just being kind, thought Issei. Yes, I knew it. You know I'm not the only one who ever had showed any interest in you, declared Rainier triumphantly. With all due respect, partner, I'm not even sure if a pure angel understands romantic interactions. A fallen angel, sure, but I think Gabriel may be too innocent, commented Drake. See, Drake agrees with me, said Rainier, hoping onto Issei's desk, swinging her legs off the side playfully. However, in my opinion, I believe that if any person could make an angel understand what type of love, it would be you, especially if that angel is Gabriel. From what I've seen, I think you are capable of doing whatever no one has ever done before, continued Drake. Now, why'd you go and say that, Drake, whined Rainier. I'm not going to lower myself into having an argument with the figment of imagination of my host's rattled mind, scoffed Drake. But by responding to me now, you did, quipped Rainier playfully. Drake grumbled at this, but he didn't say anything further, causing Rainier to laugh before focusing on the arriving students. Let's see. Standard-looking male, standard-looking male, standard-looking male, standard-looking male with larger breasts than the average, standard-looking female with pink hair, those two seem to be looking at you funny. Standard-looking female student with glasses. Creepy-looking male student with glasses. Creepy-looking male student with a bald head. Seriously. How are you two virgins like that your best friends? Questioned Rainier, commenting on each student as they entered the classroom. Issei gave a small sigh at Rainier's mutterings, acknowledging that she wasn't real, but was in fact a part of his mind. Was odd, but it made listening to her even weirder. Drake. If Rainier is a part of my mind, does that mean everything she says is something I've thought or actually think? Questioned Issei. I'll answer that. Yes, everything I say is true, or at least a part of you thinks so. That being said, all manifestations for me to take, that fact that I'm in this form, means that you really have not moved on from me at all. You could have thought of Volley, or Riser, even that red-haired skank, but you chose me. Well, your mind did anyway. Oh, and look who just arrived, said Rainier calmly, before becoming positively gritty towards the end. Issei didn't look, but he felt the healing prowess of an individual he knew, and it was immediately. Do you think that she feels bad? I doubt it. I mean, you lost it how many times because she died, or thought she died, obviously when I had my way with her, but you actually went into Juggernaut Drive for that ungrateful elf. I mean, you drastically reduced your lifespan, irreversibly so. If that wasn't for that cat, and for what? A girl who turned on you without any care for your feelings, said Rainier darkly. Oh sure, she can heal that scratched knee of a little boy, but poor Issei's heart ripped to pieces. Ha, it almost makes me happy she died, said Rainier mockingly, having adjusted her positions to ease on Issei's desk so her elbows were resting on the table, open palms and held together, supporting her head from under his chin. Her legs waved in the air above her lower back. You know, Issei, I almost did feel sorry for killing you. It wasn't much, but it was there. I just wonder how much she regrets what she did to you. No one more than her. Sure, Red reincarnated her, but you pushed for that, and then after that you protected her every single time, only for her to spit in your face, continued Rainier. Issei's expressions couldn't stop itself from shifting to a frown, as he recognized the cold truth behind Rainier's words. He had done lots for former Nun, but she had cast aside him carelessly. Ooh, Issei, what's with the frown? One of your girlfriends dump you? Asked Motohama, initially in concern before switching to jealousy. No. Just a bad memory, said Issei with a frown, momentarily catching a certain blonde's eye, before she quickly looked away in shame. That is something I've been wondering. What did happen between you and Azia? I was sure you guys were going to claim the pure maiden for yourself, interjected Motohama, his glasses gleaming in the light. Yeah, all that hard work I put into teaching her about skinship was wasted, added Kiryu. You should ask her then, grumbled Issei. I did, but she won't say it, responded Kiryu with a frown. Then just forget it. I don't want to talk about it, and if she doesn't want to say, then just deal with it, said Issei sourly, pushing his lips slightly. You sound pretty grouchy, Issei. What's the matter? Haven't had any release lately? Asked Motohama Matsuda, before causing the eavesdropping of Moriyama and Kadsei to cringe. Perverts, shouted Moriyama angrily. Don't rile us up, or we'll be right there peeking on you today, warned Motohama, with a creepy grin which caused Kadsei to shiver. Wait, do you mean you guys haven't been peeping recently? Asked Issei in shock with a gobsmack expression. No, we decided to look in what you said about us appealing to women with our own skills, answered Matsuda, with Motohama nodding, surprising Issei. Really? Questioned Issei. Yeah, Motohama even got a girl's number. She was just 6, nothing too impressive. She was just a 6. Oh, Jesus Christ, that could have been way worse. Nothing too impressive, but then again, When you're getting nothing, even a 6 becomes a 10, recounted Matsuda, with Monohama puffing out his chest in pride. Really? That's surprising, teased Kiryu. You're just jealous. You're only barely a 6 yourself, so don't flatter yourself, really. That's me being kind. You're really a 5, but I'll give you a point for your abilities, said Monohama dismissively. Wow, I really must have died because I would never have thought something like this was possible. Back when I was alive, commented Rainier in shock, pushing herself up on the desk, resting her left thigh with her hand supporting her. I'm actually pretty shocked myself, muttered Issei. Before any further conversation could occur, the teacher walked in and everyone took their seats. I don't even know why you bothered coming to this place. I mean, what does it even matter? If you can't differentiate equations, when you could literally just destroy the entire school and even the town if you wanted to, you could be doing so much better things, sighed Rainier dramatically. Issei actually took a moment to mull Rainier's words over, before simply shrugging. Rainier sighed once again, before turning around so she was facing Issei directly. Issei kept his attention on the front of the class, ignoring the restless fallen angel, who kept fidgeting on his desk. When the bell rang, Rainier cheered and jumped off the desk as Issei slowly stood up. Oh, don't be like that. I really want to see some familiar favors. Maybe the bitch who killed me will show up, chuckled Rainier. As if a deity was on Rainier's side upon existing in the classroom, Issei made his way to the outside, only to see red-haired figure directly in front of him. Issei took a brief moment to look into the blue's eyes, he was previously memorized by, only to find them lightening a soft rage within his heart, which he had been extinguished. Started Rias, but Issei walked past the girl, ignoring her completely, shocking those who have seen the action. Ria's shoulders slumped at this, and she made her way to the old schoolhouse in sadness. Oh, the silent treatment. Fitting for someone who is familiar with the lavish attention thrown at them, both in this world and her true home, said Rainier approvingly. Issei didn't respond, but his facial expression hardened slightly. Issei made his way to the tree, near where he and his friends peeped on the kendo club previously, situating himself under it. Issei closed his eyes and tried to relax. Something else you aren't telling us? Issei asked Monohama curiously, with Matsuda leaning over his shoulder. It's nothing, grumbled Issei. Well, if you're ready to see something, then watch and learn, boys, said Matsuda with a grin before making his way down to a familiar place that Issei had long stopped visiting. Is he really going to start peeing again? Asked Issei with a sigh. Just watch. He actually has a plan this time, a rather interesting one at that, said Monohama with a grin. Issei watched as Matsuda made his way towards the kendo club changing rooms, knowing they would be changing into the uniforms right now. Kendo girls, come out here, shouted Matsuda, getting Issei to look at him when he's gone insane. Did he discover he has a closet manifest or something? Asked Issei in shock. Just wait for it, hushed Monohama. As expected, it took less than half a minute for the members to come out, prominently among them Murayama and Kadase. Now I will have victory on this day, because I would, shouted Matsuda, disgusting some of the members as he reached for his waist before pulling a shinrai out from the back of his pants, which he had kept hidden along his back. Issei watched in undisguised shock as Matsuda quickly, albeit ungracefully, ducked the attacks of the kendo club, occasionally striking a few members on the bottom with his weapon when he could, particularly Kadase, whose face was starting to match her hair color. Stop doing that, shouted Kadase, after Matsuda had swatted her on the behind for the 10th time. Never. Not until one of you agrees to date me, quipped Matsuda. In your dreams, shouted Kadase as she charged at Matsuda angrily. The battle persisted for a few more minutes, with Issei starting to notice something. I think he has a thing for pink-haired girl. That's about the 24th or 25th time he has hit her from behind, while all the others are like half a dozen, commented Rainier. Stop that! Why the hell are you striking me the most? Retorted Kadase with a furious blush on her face. Isn't it obvious? You are the true goal in my eyes. Your friends are appealing, but you will be my Momo, declared Matsuda. Really? He compares the girls he is interested in with an AV idol, muttered Rainier disdainfully. Well, they both do have pink hair. Maybe that's something more appealing to him than a loli, thought Issei. Oh, God, you. Issei and Matsuda continued to watch as the two traded blows with the other kendo club member. Looking on confusion at the turn of events, Kadase continued to grow and more embarrassed with every strike Matsuda landed on her before finally reaching her breaking point. Oh my god, enough, damn it. I'll go on a date with you. If you ever pick on me again, ever again, and never swap me with that damn stick again, shouted Kadase, getting grabs out of the shock from the other kendo club members and triumphant grins from Matsuda and Monohama. Ha! A fair price to pay. So be it, declared Matsuda. Good, said Kadase, walking over closer to Matsuda until she was over a meter half from him. You'll pick me up outside the school gates this Saturday at noon, ordered Kadase. Of course, said Matsuda happily. Oh, and one last thing, said Kadase. Before a swift movement caught Matsuda off guard, he wound Lodge right when he would normally grow out of his own. That was for my ass, you creep, shouted Kadase furiously as Matsuda slumped to his knees. Ugh. You'll regret this when I need this at working full capacity to give kids, groaned Matsuda as Kanase is retreating back. I'm surprised that actually worked, commented Rainier, with Issei agreeing early at his face was gobsmacked, mouth wide open and eyes even wider. See? I told you he has a plan. That hit to his nuts, though, that was probably a surprise for him, said Motohama in amusement. I didn't think he could pull it off, but he actually did. I'm honestly impressed, said Issei slowly. That's one stall step for me. One giant leap for the perverts everywhere, groaned Matsuda after he hobbled over to Issei and Motohama. If I was wearing a hat, I'd tip it to you, Matsuda. That was by far one of the stupidest things I've ever seen you do, but it worked, said Issei in shock, causing Matsuda a grin. I planned this over the weekend. It always works with Tsunarose in the most shows, and Kanase looked like a prime candidate, but damn does she have one mean swing. No porn for the rest of this week for me, said Matsuda with a small groan. I suppose now I understand why they are friends. They are just perverted as you, but twice as stupid and lucky, sighed Rainier, which Issei grinned. Now you just need to figure out how to keep things from crashing and burning, cheered Issei. Well, this first date can't go interesting as ours, Issei cooed Rainier, causing Issei to frown momentarily before his grin reappeared. Just give me some advice. Just let me give you some advice. Don't take her to the park at the end of your date. It won't end well, said Issei, with both his friends looking at him in confusion before nodding at his sagely advice. The park? Where things started for Issei, thought a nearby eavesdropping white-haired girl. Scene break the next day. The next day of school for Issei started off as normal as ever. Students slowly trickled into their seats, discussing the latest gossip, which in case actually dealt with the perverted trio. Many students were lounging at around as well, too tired to be this early. A few were also superstitiously watching the subjects of the gossip. Lastly, to top it all off, Rainier was lunging on Issei's desk, completely normal, well if it was normal for Issei as of at least late. I still can't believe he actually got a girl to go out with him. Didn't you guys threaten to rape people with your eyes? How on earth does someone get past that? Asked Rainier, still in shock. Upon Kadase entering the classroom, the chatter quieted down temporarily, but once she took her seat and didn't show any odd behavior, everyone calmed down with a few actually groaning in disappointment. What drew a few interested glances was the beautiful brunette that no one could recognize entered the room. Oh, Issei, is that a new student? Asked Matsuda. Why would I know? Asked Issei in bewilderment. Well, recently, every new student seems to show up had known you. Just thought you might have known this one too. We actually thought you were slowly bringing your harem into the school, confessed Matsuda in embarrassment. Oh, I know who that is. This'll be fun, said Rainier, confusing Issei. How does Rainier know someone that I don't, if she is a part of me? Thought Issei in confusion. Well, clearly, I'm the smart part of you, since that girl is Kiryu, replied Rainier. Kiryu? Shouted Issei in shock, getting a few to look at him in confusion. Ah, why yes, it is me, Issei. I'm surprised you were the first one to realize, said the girl, now revealed to be a new student, but rather Akira Kiryu, who, from the looks of it things, had one hell of a makeover. The girl out of a familiar pink spectacles and put them on, but this still wasn't enough for some people. Lies, there is no way that's Kiryu. Kiryu was like a 5. This is a solid 9, shouted Motohama in shock, his glasses gleaming. Glad you think so. Truth be told, I never did much care for appearances, but a 5? I couldn't take that lying down, said Kiryu, twirling some of her hair around the right index finger. Kiryu had changed her hairstyle, losing her twin pigtails. She had slightly curled her hair down right to her side, while the hair on her left she was straight and cast-sided over her shoulders. Her bangs had also been pulled back, revealing her forehead and the rest of her face, with it now being back and held together with lime green ribbon which matched her eyes. Impossible! The same 3 sizes? It can't be, muttered Motohama in denial. I have to admit, I respect that. She couldn't be bothered dressing her up for school, but when people questioned her appearance, she shut them up in the best way possible, said Rainier in respect. Now, let's face the truth here, Motohama. My glasses are more powerful than yours, and you said yourself I'm a 9. Well, to me, you're only a 6. But play your cards right, and maybe we could see what happens when you put a 6 with a 9, smirked Kiryu, giving a few blushes from some of the nearby girls who understood the insinuation. Pretty bold, too. I like her, asked Rainier in amusement. Scene break. This is hilarious, Motohama. Kiryu completely destroyed you in front of the whole class, laughed Issei, with Motohama chuckling as well. I will not accept that. It was Kiryu in the classroom, denied Motohama. Come on. You measured her yourself and the glasses never lie, commented Matsuda, getting a nod of agreement from Issei. But if my glasses couldn't see the hidden potential of a 5 being a 9, just how much have I missed? Cried Matsuda in shock. Well, one thing, you could realize that girls' 3 numbers don't define her, said Issei, getting both Matsuda and Motohama to look at him in shock. What? Don't look at me like that, it's true. You can't just have sex with a girl for the rest of your life. There are other things to do, definited Issei. That's right. You can get stabbed by them, reincarnated by them, sacrifice your arm for them, die for them again, sacrifice your life force for them, get betrayed by them, stop by any time if you heard any of these, quipped Rainier. To think it'd be Issei out of the 3 of you with an actual brain, teased Kiryu as she approached the 3. I refuse to believe that this is Kiryu, spluttered Motohama, before feeling the 2 hands rest on his shoulders. Motohama, face it, you lost. Kiryu beat your glasses, said Issei, with Matsuda nodding in agreement. Motohama dropped his head at this, broken in his defeat. Oh, don't be a sore loser, Motohama. Besides, you might just go on a date with me, or this 9, said Kiryu with a smirk, getting the 3 of them to look at her in surprise. I talked with Kadase and she would much rather have company on her date, so I offered to have a double date between you, me, Matsuda, and her. So what's it going to be? Asked Kiryu. Just take the offer. Not only did she beat you, let's face it, you were the only one who said she is a 9. This is your best shot, said Issei. Fine, but I will upgrade myself from a 6 as well. I can't take this lying down, declared Motohama. That's fine. There's always stand and carry. But you need to have some actual strength, like Matsuda and Issei. For that, smirked Kiryu. I'll show you. My perverted mind knows more than anyone in this country, declared Motohama. That might not be as good a thing as you know, muttered Issei in embarrassment, palming his face as he did so. In that case, noon on Saturday, don't be late, said Kiryu before turning on her heel and leaving. Issei watched Kiryu leave for a moment before realizing something. It finally happened. The perverted trio all have girls for once, with real girls, shouted Issei triumphantly. Success, cried both Motohama and Matsuda. Although you guys still really are far away from having a harem, while I'm still up too, said Issei, trailing off towards the end as he started counting his fingers. Matsuda and Motohama watched as Issei counted after he kept counting past 4. They growled in annoyance. Go die, Issei, shouted the duo, causing Issei to laugh heartedly. I wonder if they'd say that knowing you already died once and died again just recently, teased Rainier, but Issei kept laughing. The perverted trio all had girls, real girls. It must have been a sign of the apocalypse. And that's the end of Chapter 11. The end is nigh. Chapter 12. Surprises. The week so far had proved to be rather lively for one Issei's class. First, there had been madness of Monday, then the twisted events of Tuesday. Now, though, everyone was waiting in anticipation for what was Wednesday might bring. Well, anyways, asked Rainier, from a usual position atop Issei's desk, legs dangling over her back, but this time she was supporting her head with her right hand and looking at Issei. Issei put his head back into thought for a minute, looking at the roof before hearing someone clear their throat near him. Issei looked to his left and saw both Kiryu and Kadase staring at him. Something you two need? Asked Issei in confusion. Actually, yes, said Kadase firmly, causing Issei to raise an eyebrow in confusion. If you guys want protection for your dates, you'd better off asking Zenobia. I still have no idea where she gets them from, said Issei calmly, before muttering the last part to himself. That's not what we came here for, cried Kadase in annoyance. But thanks for the tip, added Kiryu, getting Kadase to look at her with an embarrassed glare. You see, Morihama hasn't been too happy with the week so far, and we promised we'd go on our first date together, as best friends should, started Kadase. I see. That must have made you tagging up with Kiryu hurt her feelings, commented Issei, with Kadase giving a stiff nod. Yeah, well, in any case, Kiryu had an idea how to help her, said Kadase, before turning to Kiryu. Really? What did you think of? A makeover? Asked Issei in surprise. Before I answer that, do you really think Morihama needs a makeover? Asked Kiryu slyly. I don't think so. She'd probably be one of the top 10 girls in the school in attractiveness by my count anyway, said Issei thoughtfully, rubbing his chin and looking up slightly. In that case, what would you say to joining us all for a triple date? Promised Kiryu, surprising Issei. What? said Issei in shock. Well, let's just say Murayama hasn't exactly had the best luck with boys as of late. Outside of you three, she has little interaction with them at all, and for that reason, tends to come up off too aggressive to most, explained Kadase. Sorry then, apologized Issei sheepishly. Well, in any case, would you mind being Murayama's date for this Saturday, asked Kadase. Well, before I answer that, let me make sure you all have a few things clear, said Issei, getting a nod from the duo. You do realize I'm not exactly single. In fact, I've got about half a dozen girls who like me, and I like them in turn. Not to mention, I've been fairly frequently doing it with one of them, said Issei, getting 2 nods from the pair, although Kadase's was accompanied by a blush. That's fine. It's just for the day, and I don't think Murayama would care too much either. Just don't expect anything physical from her, said Kadase. Of course not. I've never expected anything like that. But are you guys sure she'd be okay with it? Asked Issei curiously. I'm sure, said Kadase. Okay then, I wasn't planning on doing anything this weekend anyway, plus it'd probably be fun to see how badly Motohama and Matsuda screw things up, said Issei, chuckling darkly towards the end. Then, Saturday at noon, don't be late, said Kadase, before she and Carrie walked off. This is hilarious. You've got from hated pervert to a non-sexual pimp. Oh, I wish I was alive so I could laugh at this for real. Also, you didn't really have to mention your harem on your bedroom activities. You just felt like bragging, didn't you? Laughed Rainier. Scene break. Once again, lunchtime, there was quite a large amount of chatter going on. Issei, what about you going on a date with another girl from our class? Asked Irina with a pout on her face. I would like to know as well, added Zenobia. Well, there isn't too much explaining, really. I'm going on a triple date with these 2 perverts, so 3 girls we go with can all be happy, said Issei. What about us? Asked Irina, unhappily giving a small frown. That's a fair point, I suppose. How about you both move in with me in my apartment complex? I still have a few rooms free, and this way we could spend more time together, proposed Issei. Irina and Zenobia quickly looked at each other before breaking out into a smile. Irina's significantly larger than Zenobia's. Okay, we can come over tonight then, cheered Irina. Yes, I will come prepared as well, said Zenobia, pulling out a bunch of condoms. For crying out loud, where do you keep all these things from? Asked Issei, snatching one of Zenobia's hand. I have secrets too, Issei, said Zenobia proudly, confusing Issei. I didn't mean where you get them from exactly, I meant where do you keep pulling them out of, clarified Issei. My bra, of course, said Zenobia, pointing down her shirt. I see, said Zenobia, pocketing the comment upon seeing dangerous glares being sent his way from Matsuda and Motohama. Anyway, we'll see you later tonight then, said Zenobia, before she walked Irina off. Issei turned to face his 2 friends who were glaring at him in jealousy. Hey, don't look at me like that. You guys have girls as well now, said Issei defensively. Too many. You have too many and it isn't fair, commented Matsuda. Well, too damn bad. I've struck out more than both of you combined in the past, so it is only fair I get more in the end, simply from how much effort I put into this harem thing. You guys just watched porn for like a year before doing anything, retorted Issei. I suppose that's a fair point, said Motohama unhappily, with Matsuda reluctantly nodding. Besides, this means you both can profit from my expertise, said Issei in pride. Oh yes, the expertise of how to get thrashed by your lover's interest. I'm sure they would love to know about that, drawled Rainier sarcastically. Scene break, the next day. Scene break, like, in the middle of the day. The day quickly concluded with fanfare, with whispers of Irina and Zenobia moving in with Issei. We're staring up and would no doubt explode come tomorrow. Alright, I'll wait here for both of you, so go ahead and grab your stuff. We can all head home together, said Issei, getting an excited nod from Irina and a cool one from Zenobia. Issei stood by the gates, watching as everyone left, absorbing in a conversation with Drag. So, Drag, if Grendel came back, do you think the other dragons will as well? Asked Issei in worry. A strong possibility. Dragons always feared for their power. After all, the threat of me and Albion simply fighting united the 3 factions. It is worrying, though, because the evil dragons like Grendel are in fact stronger than the current 5 the great dragon kings. 6 previously when Tanin was a part of the group, said Drake gravely. So, these dragons are even stronger than Tanin. Man, that's not good, thought Issei. It gets worse, considering that one of them, Cromcrunch, was very close in power to Albion, and last I heard, at least, added Drag. That is bad then. Really bad, thought Issei in worry. Drake didn't reply to this, but Issei could feel his silent agreement. Issei closed his eyes in thought before a voice broke out of them. What? Asked Issei in confusion as he looked up quickly only to see Moriyama in front of him. I said, can we speak for a minute, Issei? Repeated Moriyama patiently. Sure, what's up? Replied Issei. Well, Kadase and Kiryu told me about this weekend, so I wanted to speak with you, explained Moriyama. That's fair, I suppose. What's on your mind? Asked Issei calmly. Firstly, you know that I'm not actually going... You know that you don't actually have to do this, right? Asked Moriyama with a slightly narrowed gaze. Sure, I figured as much, asked Issei coolly. Or answered Issei coolly. Secondly, you better not expect anything physical to happen, said Moriyama with a hint of warning in her tone. Like I told Kadase and Kiryu, I know, I wouldn't expect you to anyway. You're better than that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have beat the three of us up so much in the past, said Issei, chuckling towards the end. Moriyama gave a brief smile at this, before schooling her features again. In that case, I just want to ask you one last thing. Why? Asked Moriyama. Why what? Asked Issei in confusion. Why would you agree to this? If it were before your self-discovery thingy, I would have said it was because you were a horny beast. But if you already have a girlfriend, or multiple girlfriends, one of which you do certain things with, why would you want to go out with me? Knowing nothing will happen, asked Moriyama carefully. A few reasons, I suppose. One, it'll be fun to see how badly Motohama and Matsuda flounder on their dates, that I can't miss. Two, I really mean it when I told Kiryu and Kadase I have no plans this weekend, and me being bored isn't a good thing. I get pretty destructive if I'm bored, or train excessively, neither of which are fun, despite what it may sound like, said Issei thoughtfully. Moriyama gave a soft sigh at this, dropping her head slightly. Lastly, who wouldn't you want to go out with a beautiful girl like you, even if it was only for a couple hours? Anyone would be lucky to take you on a date, finished Issei, getting Moriyama to look up him searchingly. Really? Do you mean that? Kiryu told me what you said about me being one of the top 10 girls in our school. In your mind, do you really mean that? I mean, compared to most, I'm pretty plain and boring, and I suppose a little violent too, queried Moriyama cynically. Of course, I mean it. Even before I got a single girlfriend, you were always in my top 10 list. It's also why I never bothered peeking on rare occasions you didn't show up to school, said Issei, leaning in closer and whispering concentratively towards the end, with a wink to Moriyama laughed. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or an insult, said Moriyama dryly. Take it however you want. It's the truth, said Issei with a grin. Moriyama couldn't help but smile with herself as she examined Issei's relaxed face. You know something, Issei? For what it's worth, I'm glad you went on your little self-discovery trip, because you're a lot more likable and much less of a pervert, said Moriyama honestly, but Issei couldn't help but smile once. Yeah, I suppose I wasn't the best sort of person personality-wise before that, but people change, I suppose, said Issei. Well, some people do. Others just fool you for so long that you expect something from them, added Rainier mockingly, causing Issei to frown. Well, for what it's worth, you're a lot more fun to talk to now, at least. It also helps you that you don't peek anymore, said Moriyama calmly. Thanks, said Issei happily. I'll see you on Saturday then, said Moriyama before walking off. It was only a few minutes later both Irina and Zenobia appeared carrying a small amount of luggage. Ready to go? Asked Issei. Yeah, said Irina somberly. Something's wrong? Asked Issei in concern. It's nothing, said Irina before remembering what just happened only minutes ago. Flashback. Irina had just finished packing her things before heading down to Zenovia's floor. It helped that Irina's floor was free and volatile in personalities, but Zenovia didn't have the same luck, which made Irina somewhat apprehensive. When Irina had made her way to Zenovia's room, she noticed the door ajar, slightly could hear voices speaking. Irina couldn't make out what was being said out, but she could hear one of the voices sounded a quick bitter. All of a sudden, the door was opened and Akano stormed out. The hybrid paused for a moment to observe the angel and saw her luggage as well, before quickly making her way to her room and slammed the door shut behind her. After a moment, Zenovia walked out carrying her luggage as well, in a blue carry-on bag in contrast to Irina's brown. Problem? Asked Irina apparently. No problem, replied Zenovia calmly before the two left and made their way down the lift. Luckily, they didn't run into any of the girls on their way, which made an exciting house easier than it could have been. As the two of them made their way towards the doors, they could saw Issei's father sitting in the living room reading a newspaper. Where would you two be off to? Asked Issei's father in interest, momentarily lowering his newspaper. Thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Hyodo, but Zenovia and I have made living arrangements. Sorry for being such a burden for you for so long, and thank you for having us, said Irina, with both her and Zenovia giving a bow. Ah, it was no bother at all, Irina. You're practically family out of it all. Do give my regards to Issei, though, both of you, said the older Hyoda before reopening his newspaper. What do you mean? Spluttered Issei. I may not be the smartest man around, but I know enough about Issei and figure out things for myself. As long as Issei is fine with it, you both have my blessings. Now shoo before someone else gets down here. This house isn't as quiet as you'd think, and I can tell you don't want any more friction to occur between you two and the others, said Issei's father, not looking up from his newspaper. The two headed to the wise and left immediately. As the two walked down the street, Irina noticed Zenobia looked rather calm, especially considering what may just happened to her and Akano. Zenobia, what happened up there? Asked Irina kindly but firmly. It was as you expect. Someone was clearly unhappy that we have been forgiven and they hadn't. That's all. Nothing too groundbreaking, replied Zenobia calmly. Did you tell her what we were going? Asked Irina. No, but I'm sure she figured it out. More or less. Not the location, though, said Zenobia. Irina sighed, but spared a glance at the slowly shrinking building as they walked from it. Scene break, end of the flashback. Alright, if you're sure, said Issei, snapping Irina out of her thoughts. The trio made their way to Issei's apartment in silence before finally arriving, just as the sun had started to set. So which rooms do you girls want? All the rooms are free, well aside from mine, obviously, but feel free to come in any time, asked Issei. The duo looked at each other before giving a silent agreement. Could we have rooms opposite each other? Asked Irina. Sure. Ground floor or the floor above that? Asked Issei. The latter. It would be the best if we are as close as possible to you. Especially if we need to make a baby in the future, said Zenobia, getting Irina to look at her with a blush. I think if we're going to make a baby, we would probably need to be in the same room, laughed Issei. Fair point, but it couldn't hurt, responded Zenobia with a nod. No worries. Let me just go grab your 2 keys. 1 sec, said Issei before dashing into the complex. Zenobia! You're still too forward, chided Irina. On the contrary, Irina, it seems I'm beginning to see some success. Not only did Issei take a practicing tool from me today, he didn't say it was too soon for us to talk about making a baby, said Zenobia calmly, causing Irina to pause and think on it. Ah, here they are. Your room is on the left. Zenobia, yours is on the right. Irina. Well, both are identical, so feel free to switch if you want to, said Issei as he handed the girls each key. What about a key for your room? Asked Zenobia. Well, I do have a key, but I actually never really lock my door, which means people tend to come in on their own, said Issei, turning towards Irina at the end, who smiled cutely and stuck her tongue out. Don't worry about that. The keys are just mostly so you girls can have privacy if you want, explained Issei before giving a yawn. Well, I know it is about 7 or so, but I'm feeling tired. Do you need any help unpacking? Asked Issei. No thanks, Issei. We should be fine, said Irina happily, with Zenobia nodding in agreement. Cool. In that case, I'm going to bed. I normally leave for school at 8, so I'll come and give you a both knock at the door at 5, too, in case you want to go together. If you need more time to prepare, that's fine, but the offer is there, said Issei before heading upstairs. Issei made his way to his room, opened the door, and made his way to his bed before lying down on it, promptly falling asleep, ignoring the fallen angel who had been trying to get his attention on the bed completely, much to her chagrin. Scene break. As Issei said, he woke up, got dressed, and made his way down to Zenobia and Irina's floor at 5, and to knock on their doors. Both girls were ready to go, and the trio made their way to school, which started to set off whispers. High school always gossiping, thought Issei in amusement. As the 3 made their way to the classroom and sat down, Rainier made her presence known by standing on Issei's desk instead of lunging on it. Finally, I've been trying to talk to you for hours. Don't you know it's rude to ignore a girl? Ranted Rainier. Also, rude to kill someone, thought Issei dryly, causing Rainier to laugh and resume her usual position on Issei's desk. I suppose that's fair. Oh, look, who just walked in? Standard-looking female student with larger breasts than average, commented Rainier. Issei turned and noticed Murayama had indeed entered the classroom in a move that thought surprised Issei. Give a small smile and a wave, which Issei returned over the moment. Okay, that's it. I can see defeat. You are clearly the luckiest pervert in the world. To get a girl who used to peek on to like you, this is unfathomable, uttered Rainier in shock. Issei heard a few people begin to mutter at this recent turn of events and couldn't help but laugh internally. What a week, thought Issei in amusement. Scene break, lunchtime. Come lunchtime, the trio of former peepers made their way at the same spot as the day before. After all, even though they stopped peeping, the spot was pretty comfortable, providing a large source of shade. Teach us, master, cried Matsuda and Motohama once Issei sat down. What? Asked Issei in surprise. How on earth did you make Murayama so nice to you? You used to peek on her as well, but you didn't smash to your shinai into your trousers, asked Matsuda, wincing slightly at the phantom pain he felt. I just talked with her. It isn't that hard, answered Issei in bewilderment. which was compounded when Motohama produced a notepad from somewhere, glasses fixating on him intensely. About what? Asked Motohama eagerly. Well, she did ask me for my reasons for agreeing to go on a date with her, started Issei, only Motohama to eagerly start scribbling. What did you say? Asked Motohama, not looking up from his notepad. The truth, firstly, that it would be really funny to see how badly you two flounder on your dates. Secondly, that I have no plans this weekend. And lastly, who wouldn't want to go out with a date with a beautiful girl like her, recalled Issei. Whoa, that is gold, said Motohama in awe as he finished writing and looked up at Issei. With words like that, no wonder you've gotten a harem, asked Matsuda in admiration. What do you mean? Asked Issei in confusion. You must teach us to be like you, Issei. We will never tell you to go die again, as you were clearly sent to this planet to impart your wisdom on lowly perverted mortals, such as us, said Matsuda and Motohama, nodding in agreement. Okay, first rule then. Don't say stupid stuff like that, said Issei, to which Motohama ditfully took notes, causing Issei to sweat drop. Secondly rule. Always be truthful with a girl. Be genuine and don't lie to her, continued Issei. Third rule. Third rule. You know what? The third rule is to obey the first two rules. Don't be overly perverted and honest and genuine with a girl. That's really all you need to do, finished Issei thoughtfully. As the duo harem-less perverts listened to the wise words of the harem-possessing pervert, none of them noticed a girl listening to them a short distance away with another person in eye hearing as well. Line break. The day finished off normal for Issei. Only this time, he made his way home with Zenobia and Irina now. Issei thought about asking Irina if Michael had told her anything about Grendel and what he and Dulio had investigated, but reasoned that if only Irina only had 2 wings, she probably wouldn't even been told and decided to visit Heaven himself to get answers directly from the source. As the familiar door appeared in front of Issei, he entered the light and eventually made his way to the 6th floor. Only Michael was present at the time, but that's all he needed for now. Issei, I wasn't expecting you back so soon, said Michael in surprise. I was just wondering about a few things to do what Dulio and I found, said Issei. What's on your mind? Asked Michael calmly. Well, for one thing, does Irina know about any of this? For the matter, exactly who does know all about this? Asked Issei. Irina does not know, and outside of the Seraphs and Dulio, only you know the situation as well, answered Michael. I see. I also have a question more directly related to the issue at hand. Exactly how strong are the current measures we fought against dragons? For that matter, since I'm familiar with it, what kind of chance does Ascalon have against someone like Cromcrunch? Asked Issei. In reverse order, Ascalon would be capable of severely wounding and even killing a dragon of Cromcrunch's caliber. The only problem is that having someone who can fight him and survive long enough to be able to use it at its full potential. Aside from Ascalon, there is no great deal many items we can use that are capable of specifically harming dragons, explained Michael. Said Issei thoughtfully before causing his boosted gear to appear and brought out Ascalon, sticking straight out of the red gauntlet. I suppose I should probably learn how to use the sword then. I mean, I can use the aura and boost it repeatedly for attacks, but I think a direct contact would work better, said Issei. You would be right in your line of thinking. However, without Ascalon, you yourself are capable of harming powerful dragons with your own abilities. Combine that with the boosted gear and you are a formidable opponent in your own right. However, given that you two are very skilled sword leaders and now living in proximity to you, training is a very valid option for you as well, said Michael. Issei raised an eyebrow at the fact that Michael was already aware of Irina and Zenobia moving in near him, but didn't dwell on it, as he saw Michael quickly walk over to the small wooden table and grasp for what looked like a few slips of paper. Now, Issei, what I am about to give you needs to be kept quiet, particularly from the devils and fallen angels. The devils more so, said Michael sternly. Issei nodded, prompting Michael to continue. You see, the Brave Saint system is ultimately quite limited to 54 angels at what. However, as I'm sure you know, the devils have a system allowing multiple people to be converted by those lower down in the power chain. The angels have no access with this, as it seems no angel is able to bestow this sort of power on anyone aside from the seraphs themselves. We haven't tested it with Dulio, as he does not have a habit to be rather restless. However, with you staying with Gabriel in heaven for close to a month, those on the door below were able to glean something from yourself, explained Michael, surprising Issei. You mean that's what those energy tests were for? I thought that was just to measure my powers as an angel, coupled with boosted gear, questioned Issei. Indeed it was. However, through this process, we were determined that you may be capable of reincarnating angels yourselves. The boosted gear already possesses an infinite transferring ability, and coupled with that, it works on your desires in response to your will, said Michael, before handing Issei's 3 blank cards, completely white on both sides. We were able to develop a few cards, which may be successful at reincarnating someone into an angel. However, even when others tried to use these cards, they were unsuccessful, since they were directly created from the capabilities of the boosted gear. We believe only you can make use of them, finished Michael, seriously gasped Issei, taking the cards in his nonchalant hand and looking at them in awe. That is actually quite interesting. Michael does make a valid point, and I do believe you may be able to do so, Issei. All sacred gears, not just mine, respond to the user's will. Given how you were able to come up with different versions of the boosted gear with your ability to promote, it seems you would also be able to successful at converting people through your transfer ability. It may also explain why your wings were red. My presense aside, commented Drake, speaking from the gauntlet. We are unsure on who just may work on. Highly religious people, common humans, devils, fallen angels, yokai, even dragons, but we are entrusting them to you, in the hopes that you will find people to use them on and inform us of the results, elucidated Michael. Devils you say, muttered Issei thoughtfully. I understand your thoughts, Issei, but you should follow through. Please be mindful of the ripples you may create, said Michael sternly. I will, said Issei calmly, fully expecting Michael to determine what he was thinking, given what Michael had just moments ago revealed to him. In that case, you may leave now if you wish. Gabriel is not here currently, unfortunately. However, if there is anything else you would like to discuss, feel free to come to me as well, said Michael. Alright, one last thing though. Should I tell Irina about any of this, asked Issei? If you do what I think you will do, which I urge to think carefully on before proceeding, you may, but only about the cards. It would be best not to alarm too many about the possible threat of numerous evil dragons returning, answered Michael. Issei nodded before giving a small bow and leaving. Michael let out a small breath once Issei had left. I do not hope this doesn't cause even more tension between the 3 factions, thought Michael grimly. And that is the end of Chapter 12. Surprises. Chapter 13. Not the Fruit. As Issei returned from heaven, he was in his bedroom and sat down on his bed, deep in thought. Come on, you can't seriously be thinking about this. You already got fooled by her once. Why on earth would you want to try something like this again? Asked Rainier cynically. This is different. This isn't personal. This is about the future and possible battles it might bring, said Issei to the figure in front of him. Yet this can only occur through you. No one else. So if it is very personal, don't you get it? This is like an angel equivalent of her barrage. Can you really trust her again? I mean, really trust her? Asked Rainier calmly. Issei looked at the cards for a minute longer before putting them on beside his table. Rainier smirked, but Issei looked at her. I'm not doubting her, but this is a big decision. I need some time to think about it, defended Issei. Sure. Whatever helps you sleep at night, dismissed Rainier with a wave of her hand. Sleep, that's not a bad idea, muttered Issei before taking off his school uniform. After Issei had taken off his shirt and blazer, he took off his pants only for something to fall out of his pockets. Issei bent down and retrieved the small shiny object before chuckling at seeing it was a condom that Zenobia had kept flashing around. I mean, come on, Issei, she just wants your kids like that cat, drawled Rainier in boredom. Not true, since that wasn't her original goal, replied Issei. Whatever, although I'm surprised you're actually talking back to me now. Finally realized how much you want me, asked Rainier cheekily. No, but if I'm alone, there isn't anything wrong with talking to myself, replied Issei as he pulled out his pajama shorts and shirt before putting them on. So, if we have sex, does that mean you're just masturbating? Asked Rainier curiously. Issei looked at Rainier searchingly for a full minute, confusing her. Yep, you're definitely that part of my brain, since questions like that keep me up at night, said Issei with a small quirk of his lips. I could keep you up another way, purred Rainier. You actually can't, since you're not real, said Issei before grabbing a pillow and throwing it at Rainier, which caused her to disappear. Hey, that was rude, said an ignorant Rainier as she appeared beside the bed instead of on it, as she had been previously. Whatever, enjoy the silence for another 8 hours, said Issei as he climbed into bed and closed his eyes with a smirk. Ass, grumbled Rainier unhappily. Scene break a little later. As Issei awoke for the final day of school this week, he paused for a moment to reflect on the week so far. Man, this has been one hell of a week. I honestly couldn't have imagined things like this happening before, thought Issei in surprise as he dressed himself. It was Friday at night. Tomorrow would have been a very interesting triple date, which Issei was looking forward to, mostly to see how Matsuda and Motohama would act on a date, but also due to the fact that Murayama had managed to pique his interest yesterday. Her sudden friendliness puzzled him, and him had waiting to understand what could have caused the change. Just like yesterday, Issei left for school with Irina and Zenobia in town, before making their way to their class. What a week! I can't believe all of this stuff happened over 4 days. I doubt anything will happen today, though. That'd just be insane, said Rainier, once again lunging on Issei's desk. Well, this does actually give me an idea, and not just to spite you, since you really are me anyway, thought Issei, causing Rainier to look at him in curiosity. Line break. Come lunchtime, the trio of female enthusiasts were under their usual tree, only for Issei to surprise the other two when he stood up and told them to watch what he did next. In a move reminiscent of Matsuda's actions on Monday, Issei made his way to the Kendo Club change rooms, but unlike Matsuda, waited outside the front door for them to come out. The emerging girls looked at Issei worriedly, but didn't say or do anything. After most of them had left, Issei patiently waited for the last two to come out, who were Kadase and Murayama. Hi, Issei, something wrong? Asked Murayama calmly. Well, not exactly wrong, but I was wondering if you would do me a favor, asked Issei sheepishly. What kind of favor? Asked Murayama, narrowing her eyes as she did so. Don't worry, nothing like that. I just wanted to know if you would teach me kendo, if you weren't too busy, said Issei quickly. Both Kadase and Murayama looked at Issei in surprise. Really? Why the sudden interest? Asked Murayama curiously. Well, I know I can hold my own in a physical battle, but I think I have an idea on how to use it to defend against weapons might be useful, explained Issei. And how that just so happened to come to you today, out of all the days of the most eventful weeks of the year, said Murayama suspiciously. Well, it isn't like I planned it. But if you don't want to do it, that's fine. There are always other people I can ask, said Issei coolly, turning his back on the duo and starting to pull back at the perverted duo. Will this affect tomorrow at all? Asked Murayama curiously. Nope, tomorrow is still set. This is a completely different thing, said Issei, pausing to look over his shoulder. Then I'd be happy to. It'd be interesting to see if your new physique has made you better target, said Murayama with a smirk. Oh, I'm sure I'll surprise you, said Issei with a wink. In that case, how about a quick spar after school, proposed Murayama. Sure, sounds good to me, said Issei, giving a wave on his shoulder as he walked back to his fellow perverts. The week continues, thought Issei in amusement, watching Rainier huff in irritation. Line break. Surprisingly, word had spread rapidly once again through the school as Issei suddenly taking an interest in kendo. This also happened to reach the ears of a certain blonde. If we had known better, Issei would have most likely come to me for help. Help. Issei helped all of us, but we couldn't help him. We really are terrible friends, thought Kiba, his face fixed in his usual fake smile, even though beneath the surface he was downing in guilt. We need to do something about this. If both Zenobia and Irina could be forgiven, there exists a chance, however slight, that we may forgive him as well, thought Yuto, with a newfound determination. Scene break. Issei made his way to the outside sparring ring for Kendo Club, and located just a few stones away from their changing rooms. The school was largely empty now, and only a few people who had late-night activities remained. When Issei arrived, he noticed Murayama grabbed in her kendo attire and was holding two shuni. You don't mind doing this test in your school uniform, do you? Asked Murayama curiously. Nah, it's fine. I'm surprisingly pretty comfortable in these clothes, said Issei, before quickly raising his left hand to grab the stick of the wood that had been thrown at him. Quick reflexes, that's good. It'll help you avoid from getting struck, appraised Murayama. Murayama walked over to Issei holding her weapon down, informing Issei that his combat was about to begin, yet Murayama circled Issei quickly before coming to a stop in front of him. Well, you have a balanced build, so a fairly basic opening stance would be your best bet, said Murayama, before raising her shinai in front of her, bending her knees slightly. Her left foot was positioned at a 45-degree angle, and her right foot was pointed straight ahead. Right hand above, a left on the suba. Lastly, Murayama was bent over so slightly forward. This is the stance you would want to take, instructed Murayama. Issei observed the stance before quickly mimicking it. Good, said Murayama with a nod before taking a few steps back. Now, before we start, do you need basic striking techniques? Asked Murayama. More or less, this stuff is based on kenjutsu, which I've seen a lot more of, and we've watched all of you pick most of it up. I just wanted some hands-on experience, confessed Issei with a chuckle. Murayama gave a dirty look before her expression expression relaxed once again. In that case, let's spar, said Moriyama. Issei nodded before the two eyed each other off. Issei waited for Moriyama to make the first move as she quickly advanced on him and struck downwards. Issei held his shin eye upwards, with a slight tilt to the left, causing the wood to clack harshly. Issei then quickly brought his sword down on Moriyama's right wrist, only to find it blocked. Moriyama then leveled a strike that had been on the side of Issei's abdomen, only for Issei to strafe to the side and avoid the attack, beginning him closer to Moriyama's right and attempting a strike to her head. Moriyama blocked it as the two continued to trade blows back and forth. As the spar continued, Moriyama started to find herself equally surprised and frustrated. Not only was Issei a complete rookie matching her, he was doing it so easily almost as he hasn't even been challenged. After a few more strikes, Moriyama decided to stop holding back and started leveling increasingly faster strikes at Issei, occasionally aiming for his left side as well. To Moriyama's surprise, Issei found no difficulties blocking on either side, which was surprising. Blows to the left and right were not common, outside of those aimed towards the head, which made many at least a little bit unbalanced when someone could strike at both sides so fluently. As her strikes picked up in speed, so did Issei's. A furious clacking of wood on the wood was all the heard between the two, both controlling their breathing to a frightening level. Eventually, Moriyama decided it was time to end this and aimed with a rapid thrust at Issei's throat. Moriyama's eyes widened as she realized that Issei was not wearing the proper gear, and to strike his throat would be devastating, probably even crippling. Issei felt the intent behind the strike before Moriyama had moved and quickly taken his left hand off the shinai. I think that's enough for now, said Issei, gripping Moriyama's shinai at the tip with his left hand, only a hand's length away from his throat. Moriyama blinked for a moment, completely shocked that Issei had caught her strike, but thankful for it. Yeah, that's a good idea, agreed Moriyama. I have to say, though, that was interesting. It is different when I have one of my own. Can't really defend against you without it, laughed Issei as he let him go of Moriyama's shinai, remembering how many times that shinai had met his flesh in the past. Well, with reflexes like that, I think you'd manage, said Moriyama, still a little awed at Issei's speed. In any case, thanks for that. See you tomorrow, then. Hopefully I won't be too annoying, that you feel to reacquaint me with your shinai again, after this is that, said Issei as he handed his shinai to Moriyama, who took it in confusion. What do you mean? Asked Moriyama. Well, I'd say all things considered, just knowing the stance was all I really needed from this. I've known the strikes for years now. I can keep up with the movements, and as you've seen, I have excellent reflexes, said Issei. Then why didn't you leave after that? Asked Moriyama in confusion. 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to test myself against what I would say is the best kendo practitioner in this school. 2, is it so wrong to want me to watch you close up in action? Watching from a distance is fine, but before, when you would get up close and personal, it was usually for a beatdown. I just wanted to see a proper action is all. Have to say, though, you sure are dangerous with that thing, said Issei cheerfully. So that's it then? You're done with kendo? Asked Moriyama, somewhat disappointed. I guess, but I'll be sure to keep watching you, said Issei with a laugh before walking up. See you tomorrow, said Issei, giving a wave on his shoulder. Moriyama watched Issei leave in confusion before taking her shinai and widened her eyes. The tip was severely cracked and crumbling away, as thought one more strike would turn into dust. Something definitely changed with Ihodo, thought Moriyama before going in to return to kendo equipment. Scene break. You were so close back then. If you didn't stop yourself, that thing would have turned into splinters, commented Rainier. I know, muttered Issei with a blank expression. Rainier looked at Issei curiously before giving him an uncaring shrug. Whatever then, sighed Rainier in boredom. Issei made his way to his apartment before heading to his shower. It hadn't been a particularly intense battle for him anyway, but he had still worked up a small sweat, and going on a date without showering probably wasn't the best idea. After showering, Issei made his way back to his bed while drying himself off, glared at the picture of Azazel. That's so creepy. He's watching me sleep, thought Issei before trying to take a picture framed down, only to find it wouldn't budge. Issei frowned before sighing and simply throwing his towel over the picture. That works, thought Issei before putting his pajamas and going to bed. Scene break. Finally, it was Saturday. Time for the big day. It was only as Issei made his way to school that he realized he had no idea what to expect. I don't know how to feel about wearing the same clothes as you did to make my date with you. That being said, didn't I punch a hole through your shirt? Did you have a replica or something? Asked Rainier as he walked alongside him. Issei was clad in the black top, black pants, and had a lavender jacket over the top, just as he had on the first date with Yuma Amano. That being said, he filled them out much more than he previously thanks to his training. Back to his current date, for one thing, he was mostly a passenger in this whole thing. Matsuda was the main part of the date, having asked Karase. Then Kiryu and Morihama had joined in, then lastly, he was roped in for Moriyama. I wonder if they will do better than you did. I mean, your date was very safe. Now that I think about it, the complete opposite of what a pervert should have done. I wonder if your friends will be the same. Probably not, though, pondered Rainier thoughtfully. Reaching the school at 15 at noon, he was surprised to see everyone else was there already. The girls were all dressed up in knee-length skirts, yellow for Moriyama, blue for Karase, white for Kiryu, coupled with sleeveless tops and a light jacket. Since it was rather chilly out, Moriyama wore a pink top while Karase wore a green and Kiryu a black one. Their jackets were red, green, and black for Moriyama. Karase and Kiryu respectively. Matsuda was wearing tan pants and a white short-sleeved shirt, and while Morihama was wearing blue jeans and a black-red checkered long-sleeve shirt. Sorry for making you wait, said Issei nervously. It's fine. We did say noon. The fact that we all happen to be here early is fine, said Kiryu with the others nodding. All right. In that case, time to go to the first stop. On best for your date life, cheered Matsuda. Well, I guess ours would have been your worst. After all, how many dates end with death, laughed Rainier. Where's to first? Asked Karase suspiciously. A restaurant, said Matsuda simply before marching off. As the group started to walk, Issei noticed that Morihama had actually tried to make his hair neat. However, his hair was just as messy as always, causing Issei to softly chuckle to himself. Something funny? Asked Moriyama from Issei's beside. Nothing. It's just that Morihama tried to style his hair, but he clearly failed miserably, said Issei in amusement. Moriyama looked over at Morihama before noticing what Issei stifled a giggle. Matsuda led the group to a fairly nice Western-styled restaurant. It looked to be primarily specialized in burgers, with the appointment yet some crude made, flame-grilled slabs. The group of 6 entered and were seated after a minute, each couple seated across from each other, while Issei inside, Morihama in the middle, and Matsuda on the edge of their booth. To the restaurant's credit, the food was good, perhaps too good, as Matsuda was a little overeager in his eating, causing Issei to snicker himself at Karase's slightly irritated expression. Afterwards, Morihama declared that they were going to watch a movie, and shockingly, the movie was not perverted, a rather simple murder mystery movie with a group of 20 people in all in their 30s being invited over to lavish mansion for dinner from a peer of their own in high school. Before this movie starts, I'm not coming if any of you pull something like this, said Issei to the group as they waited for the movie to start. Why not? Asked Kiryu. These things never end well, and not seeing someone for decades means you have no idea what to expect. For all I know, one of you could be crazed psychopath by the time you turn 30, answered Issei. I think if anyone went crazy, it'd be you, teased Kiryu. You know, considering that within a year you died, became a devil, then an angel, she's got a point, said Rainier, seated beside Issei. From left to right, Rainier was seated to Issei's left, Moriyama's to Issei's right, Karase to Moriyama's right, and Matsuda to Karase's right, Kiryu to Matsuda's right, and finally Morihama on the other end. That is so fucking confusing. The movie started off to the movies do, snippets of the ground information on various characters and their history, with the one throwing at the party on the island. However, once everyone arrived, the one who invited them was not present. Oh, you just know people are going to start dying now, grinned Rainier. True to her words, one of them, a model, was found dead, with a sculpture of the Eiffel Tower embedded in her chest. After a rather large man, a construction worker, was found the next day, impaled on the model of the pyramid. After the 4th death, a woman poisoned with venom from a spider found only in Australia. People had started snuggling up together. Moriyama was leaning into Issei's shoulder. Karase had shuffled over to Matsuda's to Issei's amusement. Morihama was gripping onto Kiryu, in hand partially burying his face into her shoulder. Issei tried and succeeded in containing his laughter, but Rainier gawked loudly from beside him, falling off her chair in the process. The movie concluded as Issei had expected, the host failing one too many times and becoming frustrated, revealing himself to the group, only for the man who had been impaled on the pyramid to have actually survived. Weakened as he was still able to bring the very same pyramid which had impaled him down to the head of their much scrawnier attacker, breaking his neck. After that, he came along with 2 survivors, left the island, concluding the movie. As the group left the theater, Morihama had calmed down somewhat, but held Kiryu's hand. Matsuda, on the other hand, was now walking as close to Karase as possible without actually touching her. All in all, Issei was quite surprised at the progress they were both making. It was then he glanced down and noticed Moriyama was leaning into his side and his left arm around her shoulders. Now, the final stop, declared Matsuda. As the 3-hour-long movie, the sun was officially beginning to make its way down. It was fairly on the high of the horizon, but another 2 or 3 hours it would have dipped down below the surface. The final stop, at Masuda and Motohama doing their embarrassing duet. Despite being embarrassed, though, it certainly created a fun atmosphere, so much that Issei mustered up the courage to go butcher a song of his own. One pop song later, Issei had found out, strangely enough, that his singing improved, much to his embarrassment, had been forced to sing another by the group. Only this time, they had chosen it for him. Melody of the Wild Dance by S.I.D. had come up and Issei smiled, being familiar with the song, in fact, quite fond of it. As he finished the song, Issei looked over to the group at 5 and noticed them all looking at him in awe. Is something wrong? Asked Issei nervously. When the hell did you learn to be a good singer? You suck just as bad as us a few months ago, said Matsuda in shock. Don't know, said Issei sheepishly. After that, the girls sang Study X Study by Style of S and surprised the trio of perverts. Wow, you sounded just like them, exclaimed Issei with a nodding of unmuted in silence. Well, Kadase and I have actually practiced a lot, but Kiryu did a really good job as well, said Moriyama happily. After a few moments of renderings of various songs, Matsuda proposed the ideas of couples singing songs together. This was quite a bit of grumbling, most of them feeling a duet was definitely not their thing, much more suited to people twice their age, but Matsuda persisted as they eventually gave in. As expected, Matsuda and Momohama tried their best, but singing really wasn't their thing. However, when Issei and Moriyama stood up, the other 4 watched in interest, looking forward to a duet but rather good singers. The song picked at random by 2 was possibly a duet between Daichi Moriyama and BOA. As the two sang, their friends watched in admiration. A duo was hard enough to pull off, even between 2 good singers, but the duo Issei and Moriyama made for an absolutely breathtaking performance. As they finished, their friends applauded, and much to their embarrassment, so did the other few who were in the karaoke club as well. I'm not doing that again, huffed Issei with a small blush. Moriyama with a slightly bigger blush nodded in agreement. But you guys were so good, exclaimed Kadase. Yeah, you were completely buried, as you know. Who would have thought that Issei was such a good singer, lamented Motohama with a worried grin. What's your secret, Issei? Have you been lessoned since last time, teased Kiryu. Actually, it is because you are an angel now. You didn't think that having a voice of an angel was an expression, did you? Teased Rainier. No, I just don't know. Maybe I was just having a bad day back then, chuckled Issei nervously. The group kept singing for another hour, but no more duets were sung as Issei didn't sing again, too embarrassed of the applause that might follow. When the group stepped outside, it had become dark, or at least it would have been, if not for the neon lights. The group walked out of the entertainment district of Ko and headed back to the residential part, where everyone lived. The group slowly splintered off, with Matsuda offering to walk Kadase home, which she actually accepted, causing Matsuda to smile and for Issei to raise an eyebrow. Looks like they did better than you thought, commented Rainier after Motohama and Kiryu left. So Moriyama, where to from here? Asked Issei. Just a bit further, that way, mumbled Moriyama sleeplessly. Which way? Asked Issei, only to see Moriyama was practically sleeping, walking, leaning into him for support. Issei gave a small sigh before slightly turning head towards his apartment. Oh, what are you going to do now? Take your back for some hot and steamy action? Teased Rainier. Issei deadpan at the apartment. I'm such a pervert sometimes, said Issei internally. Hey, you were thinking it, otherwise it wouldn't have said it, quipped Rainier. Issei sighed audibly this time, but didn't speak back to the fallen angel. My mind is messed up no matter what it seems, thought Issei dryly. That's the end of Chapter 13, Not the Fruit. Chapter 14, Gifts from the Mountain Village. When Issei saw the stairs to his complex, when he realized that he'd need to do so and gently, without disturbing her too much, swept Moriyama into his arms and carried her up the stairs. Thanking himself for not locking his door, Issei opened his door and set Moriyama down on the couch before moving to the kitchen. It was close to 10 now. Too late for anything big, but Issei figured some tea would be okay. As the water boiled, Issei poured 2 cups. Moriyama started to awaken, after Issei had set the tea down on his table, prompting her to look around in confusion. This is my apartment. I don't know where you actually live, and you kind of fell asleep on me, so I brought you here. Tea? Offered Issei. Moriyama looked around for a minute before spotting her tea and brought it to her lips. Issei watched her hold up the cup between her hands for a minute, starting to water into depths. Issei, is there something wrong with me? Asked Moriyama softly. What do you mean? Asked Issei in confusion. I mean, is there something wrong with me that repels boys? Is it my personality? Am I too aggressive? Is it my looks? Am I unappealing? Asked Moriyama quietly. Oh, Looks like you aren't the only one with insecurities, commented Rainier in amusement. No, you're great. You're smart, athletic, pretty, and kind. What's second-guessing yourself? Asked Issei in confusion. If that's the case, how come no one approaches me with a romantic intent? I'm probably the least popular girl in our class. Hardly anyone looks at me anymore. Even before, back when the three of you peeped on us previously, that was it. I don't get it. What's wrong with me? Asked Murayama unhappily. Nothing's wrong with you. I guess some people aren't as interested in you. It doesn't mean that you're unappealing, just that you haven't met the right person yet, said Issei awkwardly. Do you know how it felt seeing both Kiryu and Kadase getting dates? Then to top it off, you had been asked to be my date, muttered Murayama unhappily. Issei stood up and moved over to Murayama before wrapping her shoulders into a one-armed hug with his left arm. Even if they didn't ask me, I would have loved to go on a date with you. You are a great person, Murayama, and a beautiful girl. Like I said before, any guy would be lucky to go on a date with you, spoke Issei soothingly. Issei, even with all of the girls you have after you, do I even compare? Do I even register on your radar? Just think of Irina and Zenobia, and I just can't see why someone would be interested in me. They're both so unique, both perfect in their own ways, spoke Murayama. She does have a point. Compared to people like a cat or an angel, she isn't particularly noteworthy, is she? Commented Rainier thoughtfully. It isn't right to compare yourself to others. You're special in your own way, said Issei. Murayama frowned at this. Murayama, let's be honest here. I was hugely hated pervert a few months ago. No one would have ever dreamed of me having a single girlfriend, let alone many. I didn't do anything to change myself, though. I just finally found people who appreciated what I had to offer. It isn't like there's some magical way to get people to like you. When you meet someone who appreciates you in the same way, you'll find out just how special you are, said Issei kindly. Issei was shocked when Murayama suddenly kissed him on the lips. I never hated you, though. I always liked you, admitted Murayama, surprising Issei. Oh, plot twist, said Rainier in excitement. Even when you peeked on us when we beat you, I always tried to avoid anywhere that would hurt. You never hit me my hardest. While I don't like looking at you like that, I felt an odd satisfaction that you wanted to see me. I wanted you to see me, just in different circumstances, confessed Murayama. Issei took a moment to reboot his brain. You've liked me? You like me? Asked Issei, dumbfounded. Yeah, and then with all those girls started showing interest in you, I could feel your interest in me slipping away. Sure, you stopped peeking on us, but even in class outside of it, you barely spared me at a glance anymore. It was like I no longer met the standards to be worth your time, answered Murayama. Well, to be fair, you have been pretty busy these past few months. That being said, I was of course prettier than her in both forms. It is only natural your standards were raised, commented Rainier calmly. Even though you were a pervert, you were my pervert. Beyond all that, you were genuine to me. I heard what you told the other two about being genuine. Even before this all, you didn't lie. Even though it was hugely inappropriate, you didn't fake interest in me. You found me attractive, continued Murayama. Murayama, you don't need to be like this. You are special, and someday someone will see you as such. You don't need to lower your standards to a pervert like me, said Issei seriously. Don't you get it? You are that special someone. No one else looks at me like you do. You see me as someone special. That's why it hurt you. That's why it hurt me seeing you with all those others. I know I can't measure up to any of them, and I felt like I was losing that one person. Who would ever see me as someone special? Cried Murayama in equal parts of annoyance and sadness. I have to admit, I didn't see this coming, said Rainier in surprise. Even if you're interested in others, even if you've done things with others, I still want to be with you. It's not fair that one person for me is being taken away from me, continued Murayama. Issei was stunned into silence, not knowing how to respond to that. Funnily enough, Rainier was equally as stunned as there was a silence throughout the room for a good 30 seconds before Issei's brain rebooted once again. But why? I mean, there are plenty of people out there. You don't have to settle for me, said Issei in confusion. Don't you get it? I'm not settling for you, said Murayama before straddling Issei's lap and grabbing his head. I want you, said Murayama firmly, before pressing her lips against Issei's. It took a moment for Issei to react, but once he did, Murayama's joy he reciprocated. As the two broke away, Issei spared a glance at the fallen angel, still speechless on the couch, before giving a small frown. What is it? Asked Murayama in concern. It's just, there is some stuff about me you don't know, and it's pretty big, said Issei. Just answer me this, said Murayama firmly, getting Issei to look at her. Does it change how you feel about me in any way? Asked Murayama. No, but it may change how you feel about me and might what you want to reconsider you are getting into, said Issei. Murayama thought for a moment before surprising Issei as she went right back insulting his lips. Don't care then. As your feelings for me don't change, then I'll accept it, whatever it is. declared Murayama, shocking Issei. But this is really big stuff, stuttered Issei. I'd rather see other big stuff, unless you were all talk, said Murayama dryly, causing Issei to recoil slightly before smirking. So you're sure about this? Nothing will change your mind? Asked Issei teasingly. Yep, my mind is made up, replied Murayama, only for Issei's smirk to widen. We'll see about that. But in the meantime, said Issei confidently before picking Murayama, who quickly wrapped her legs around Issei's waist and held on his shoulders for support.